Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Good morning, Vietnam!
You are great.
I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
My calculations are correct. When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious...
You're listening to the 30-something Movie Podcast. Classic movies, 30 years in the making. What is the 30-something Movie Podcast?
Hi.
I have a whole gaggle of people with me. Gaggle?
I haven't been gaggled in a long time.
Yeah, well, you have a baby, so...
It's true.
Yeah. All right, so we've got almost the whole team is here, except for Bo.
Yeah.
Hi, Bo.
Hi, Bo. Hope you're doing all right. New job, new position.
Bo has new job, new position, so he's got a little bit more work going on. So was not able to join us this time, but he might call in and leave us a message that we can add in after the fact. But we do have Dennis with us.
Hello.
Dennis brought his own food this time.
Yo.
So that's that. We have Jeff.
Hi.
Jeff is back from Babyland.
I'm just temporarily.
Just visiting.
Yeah.
Okay. And Pat.
Hey.
Everybody knows Pat. We're here for the 200th. I guess that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
The 200th epiversary
200th epiversary spectaculario.
Podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Spectaculario?
Yeah, I think it's Spanish. I don't remember though.
Whatever.
It's exciting. Whatever
I took French in high school, so I don't know. So we're here tonight. We don't have a specific movie that we're talking about tonight, but we are going to be talking a little bit about some of our guilty pleasure movies. Movies that, what was some of the other categories, were movies that are midnight movies.
So
and
these categories and definitions of have just sort of, they've continued to morph as our conversations have gone on, and I have a feeling they're going to continue to morph as our conversation continues tonight.
They've morphed and grown just like we have.
Just not in the right ways.
All right, so very, very quickly, before we get going, this is our 200th episode.
Wow.
I do need to say just at the very beginning
Mute
here
that thing. We're recording over here.
Are you doing all right?
You want to mute that? We're trying to record.
You playing music over there? Or?
No.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear music?
I don't know.
I heard a notification pop up somewhere.
Oh, okay. It's really messing with the audio quality here. And you, the digital film guy of all people, should be like...
Digital film, not digital audio.
I know, I didn't say that.
We'll wait till that way it'll mask the crunching of the chips.
So anyway, we do spoil the events of the movies that we talk about, and we're going to talk about a whole slew of movies tonight. So just so you're aware, if we mention a movie's name, we're probably going to say at least a few things about it. So we might spoil
a few
endings and events and things like that, beginnings and whatnot. So
Middles.
Just spoiler alert right off the bat. We're going to spoil whatever we talk about, so just be aware of that.
Be ready. Any movie can be spoiled
any
at any
possible
time.
movie, even movies that haven't come out yet.
Let's spoil one that hasn't come out yet.
Star Wars Episode 9.
They all die.
It's going to be in space.
They all die.
Okay.
That's how you end the Skywalker franchise.
They all die.
They all die.
Cool. All right.
You okay, Pat?
I am.
Don't worry, the Falcon lives.
I'm excited about
the Millennium Falcon lives.
Actually, the Millennium Falcon crashes.
Yeah.
He gets completely destroyed, but they take the pieces that are left and they make it into a space motorcycle.
That would be cool.
Okay.
I
wanted him to feel better about it.
When I sent out the Return of Captain Picard, people rumored Earth-Star Voyager sequels. I said the only thing that could be cooler is if Star Trek featured a motorcycle. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
It did.
Awesome.
Wow. So, so we had that. We did have... it's completely disappeared from my screen now. So I don't have the person who did it. But we did have somebody that sent us kind of a photoshopped version of a poster created as if you were going to do like an Earth-Star Voyager like 30 years later.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. So that was very cool. We've got some movies we're going to talk about tonight. As Jeff said, the categories are basically guilty pleasures, kind of comfort movies, the kind of stuff that it just makes you feel good when you watch them, or just you can put them on at any point in time. So we've got a couple different categories, and we will kind of, they might sound similar, but we've got maybe a bit of a definition to go with each one. Just a bit.
Let's see how it goes.
We'll see how it goes. So very quickly, before we get into all that stuff too, if you have not yet left us a review on iTunes, if you are enjoying the show and you want to leave us a review on iTunes, please go ahead and do that, or Google Play, any of the places you get your podcasts. Also, please, if you want to get in touch with us, visit our website, 30podcast.com. That's the best way to get a hold of us if you want to do it by email, voicemail, Twitter, any of those things. I have 2 announcements very, very quickly for our little news section here. Thank you.
I don't know.
Little newsreel.
Sure.
That thing.
Sure.
Because we don't have enough money to add in the actual sound effects.
We don't.
No. We are going to have, coming up soon, not sure when, we're going to have a special Christopher Robin episode for the movie that just came out with a guest host from the
Hopefully.
Disney Vault Talk podcast. Hopefully.
If we can make it happen.
Yeah. So we're going to try to arrange. The hosts of that podcast are Teresa Delgado and Steve Glosson. We're going to have Teresa hopefully be able to come on and do a podcast with us on Christopher Robin.
I started listening to Disney Vault Talk towards the end of last school year, and basically it's the 2 of them. They go through all the Disney animated movies in sequential order, and just each episode is about a different animated movie. Loving Disney as much as I do, I love that podcast. So I started, following the podcast on Twitter. I follow the hosts on Twitter, and recently, the other night, Teresa had gone out to see Christopher Robin, and tweeted that if anyone wants to podcast about this movie, let me know. So I replied, oh, okay,
I'm
whatever.
letting you know.
And I got in touch with her, and we messaged back and forth a little bit, and hopefully we're going to be able to make it happen, that we will have a very knowledgeable Disney person join us for a conversation about Christopher Robin. Again, if we can get all the timing to work right, and I know John has seen the movie. I haven't seen it yet. I'm hoping to see it soon. I don't know if you guys plan on going to see it.
I will, but I haven't seen it yet.
Is that on your
I haven't seen
radar,
it yet,
Pat?
but we're kind of getting at the stage where we are looking for family movies to bring the kids to, which is kind of redundant. So definitely on the radar. So that would be very cool, especially with the guest that you're speaking
Yeah,
of. That
so I'm
would be
hoping that
pretty
we
neat.
can get to that sometime before school starts.
Cool.
Just so we have it on our
Awesome.
our calendars to start thinking about and planning. But yeah, so hopefully, like I said, we can make that happen and welcome Teresa onto our show, and if we're lucky, she'll come back and join us for other Disney movie discussions.
Cool.
And if you're even on the fence at all about going to see that movie, if you've read any of the critics, anything like that, the only thing I will say, because I have seen it, is ignore the critics. Just go and watch it for yourself, because a lot of the reviews that the critics have given, I don't agree with them at all. Like yeah. And that's all I'll say, because
Okay.
I don't want to give anything else away, but I completely do not agree with most of what I've seen from the critics. So go see it for yourself. If you are a Winnie the Pooh fan at all, then go see this movie, because I think you will absolutely love it.
Cool.
All right. And when we went to go see the movie, my mother-in-law went with us, the kids were with us, so you had multiple generations. Everybody loved the movie. Even my son, who's not necessarily a huge Winnie the Pooh fan, don't know why, but we all make mistakes from time to time. We all have the right to be wrong, I think. Even he enjoyed it. So I think this is a movie that anybody would be able to enjoy, no matter what age or inclination you have. All right, the only other thing I got here is there was an announcement yesterday that Robert Redford has announced his retirement from acting. So, yes, he's decided he is done. He is now, 80, 81 years old?
Something like that, yeah.
Somewhere around there.
Although he hasn't ruled out directing, continuing to direct.
Right. But as far as he's concerned, it kind of sounds like at this point he's
Like
done
Eastwood.
with acting.
Maybe Eastwood was the one that.
It might have been Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
You and I were talking earlier.
Yeah, we were trying to figure out who recently,
somebody-
what other actor recently quote unquote announced that they're going to retire from acting.
Yeah.
And we know that Connery a while back had said he's done acting, but there's someone else we were trying to think of. Might have been Eastwood.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I couldn't remember which one, but yeah, probably.
One of
those.
And again, it kind of begs the question: why do you have to formally announce
Just don't make it.
you're not going to act anymore? Like, why don't you just stop doing movies?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Maybe people keep bothering them.
that's the only thing I could
Yeah.
think of that
So
just
by announcing it, they don't send them
Yeah.
a script.
Maybe podcasts sit around and discuss, like, dude, what happened to that guy? Can no one hire him? You know, like, it just kind of gets out of there ahead of the whole news. I
So
just think
basically,
something-
Robert Redford didn't want to listen to us complain about why he's not in
Yeah.
movies anymore?
Maybe he wants to mow his lawn in peace.
Well, could be.
Or have Val Kilmer do it. I don't know.
They'll need
I'm
something to do.
Yeah.
Well, apparently he's getting in shape for Top Gun too.
A lot of lawn mowing for that.
Excitement.
Topper gun.
Topper gun.
Topper gun.
Feel the need.
Uppermost gun. All right. So I think that's all I got for news type things. The only other things I will say is we did pass about 1,500 followers on Twitter, so we have quite a few followers out there on Twitter. So thank you to everybody who's following us on there. I will jump in real fast then for the social media stuff and just say, since we're talking on Twitter real quick, the feedback that I got from a couple of different followers that we have, there is, and they kind of left us a list of the guilty pleasure movies that they have, or comfort movies that they have. And so our friend Jason Colvin, who has replied back to us several times.
Hi, Jason.
Hey, Jason. At jcolvin24 on Twitter, he said that his comfort movies are Die Hard, Shawshank Redemption, and A Few Good Men. And his guilty pleasure movies are Dumb and Dumber, Smokey and the Bandit, and Cannonball Run.
Nailed it.
There we go.
Dang. Nice.
We have another podcast following us too, the Nerdium Podcast. So they are at Nerdium Podcast, and they just wrote Pure Comfort, and they left a animated GIF of Batman '89.
Excellent choice.
That was their only pick. I don't
So
know. That
both of those people, Jason and that other podcast, Nerdium, have become best friends with Pat.
Yes. Pat has two.
I've been waiting for 4 years to talk about that.
We were talking about this last time. I was like, you know what? I think just so that Pat can not explode, I think that when we get to 1989 next year, Batman just needs to be like the very first episode we do.
Well, we when we did the podcast on, what was that crappy movie we did a couple weeks ago?
Tequila Sunrise.
It was funny because there was a rumor going around that like Tequila Sunrise sales in the box office, it was a total rumor, was inflated because people would go just to see the 89 Batman trailer, and then they would leave as soon as the trailer was done, and that was the rumor. So I said, what if we do this for the podcast? Let's bring everyone in thinking they're going to listen to Tequila Sunrise. Then let's just talk about 89 Batman, and then they're out, and we could kind of, but we didn't. But I'm just saying that was cool.
That's all right. Now, I will say, before we even get going with this list, I am going to say that originally there were 5 squares in each category. And then someone who might remain nameless, Jeff, started adding more rows.
I didn't know that was against the rules. Why is that against the rules?
I don't know.
I added that one in there for you.
I saw that, yeah.
Did you put Howard the Duck in?
I did.
Oh, you put Howard the Duck
I
in
did.
for it.
It was comfort movies of the 80s.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe he was just sarcastically being like, I'm not filling out your table. Howard the Duck.
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay, all right.
Donnie, this is podcasting. It's not Nom. There are rules.
All right, so as we said, we are going to kind of, we may need to explain some of our categories just a little bit because we have some specific definitions that we've kind of debated and talked about when it comes to what exactly is a guilty pleasure movie and what is a comfort movie. Let's see, what was one of our other categories here was midnight movies. Now, Jeff, you put that one in, so you said movies to watch when you can't sleep.
Yeah, do you have a go-to thing that it's 1 a.m., I'm wide awake, I'm just going to watch this one again?
Okay.
The Exorcist.
What is wrong with you?
Well, so that was my follow-up question for that one, though, is that movies that will, even though you love them, it will make you fall asleep, or movies that you're just like, well, I'm up anyway?
It's a good question. It's not so much that makes
because Exorcist is not going to put me to sleep.
It's not so much make me fall asleep as it is just like
Soothe
at that time of night. There's something about those movies that
I get what you're saying.
Like I can't watch some of those movies
Invasion of
during the
Body
day.
Snatchers.
Yes.
Creep show.
Are you trying to sleep or not trying to sleep?
But I agree. And like as I was coming up with that,
But if
with
you
the
can't fall
answer,
asleep, then
the
you
categories for the midnight movies, it was like, okay, if this is the reason I'm awake, I will watch these movies. If this is the reason I'm awake, I'll watch
like
these
there are
movies.
just some movies that fit a certain mood.
Right.
And so, like, spoiler alert, one of my midnight movies is Basketball. I can't watch Basketball during the day. I don't know why. It's just I can try putting it on.
Because other people are awake and they make fun of you.
Well, that could be. I love that movie so much though. Like at night, it's like the perfect movie to watch at 2 a.m. when I'm wide awake and can't sleep.
See, and if it's movies that put you to sleep, then I just have to put every movie.
Well, see, right. I mean, that was...
Pearl Harbor.
Well, you fall asleep for everything.
Yeah, see, that's my problem.
Right, I know.
So that's the thing I watch when I want to break the TV.
You don't have midnight movies. Do you mean like 8:30 movies?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And then the last one on here, I threw this one in because I started to realize that a lot of my guilty pleasure ones, I'm like, well, I don't like them now. But when I was a kid, I loved them.
Then.
And so
When
will then be now? Soon. So I put in the category of juvenile guilty pleasures, movies you loved as a kid, but their awesomeness only holds up in your memories. Let's fire it up here. Guilty pleasure movies of the 80s. So since we are an 80s podcast, we got guilty pleasure movies of the 80s. Pat, you want to go first?
Sure. All right.
Go for it.
I was not.
Oh, you weren't prepared?
I will now. I am now.
Be prepared.
My phone
So
is
again,
on.
guilty
So
pleasure.
yeah, what are we saying a guilty pleasure movie is?
Initially, I thought guilty pleasure would be a movie that, or something that you enjoy that you probably wouldn't want people to know that you enjoy it as much as you do.
Okay. All right,
Initially.
that's cool.
One of the definitions is defined as something such as a movie, television program, or piece of music that one enjoys despite feeling it is not generally held in high regard. The other definition that I liked was an article from Ranker.com, and they said, what makes a film a guilty pleasure? This is a movie that you love to watch, but you won't display on your DVD shelf. Or maybe you will. Maybe you'll stop to watch when you flip it by it on TV, but never if someone else is in the room. These movies are not always bad movies per se, but our cultural zeitgeist has determined they are cheesy movies, badly done, overdone, overwrought, or made entirely of syrup. But still, these movies draw you in, you love them, but secretly.
Now, when I go through the list, do you want me just to shoot down and say a little bit about each thing?
Yeah,
Is that,
go for it.
Okay, cool. All right, so guilty pleasure. And my thing is, I have no shame. So I find that these movies go up and...
We know.
Right.
Put your pants back
I
on.
was just going to make a joke about that. So these are movies that I find like, I mean, there's certain groups of people that I've run in that it's like, dude, that thing's awesome. But then there's a lot of people like, you know, it might be my dad going, really, are you watching that thing again? Or my wife goes, you like that? You know, it's just like, these are the movies that I find I have to like, you know, argue about and all that kind of thing. So, guilty pleasure.
Temple of Doom.
Of the 80s. First one up, Cannonball Run. I mean, just classic cheeseball kind of fun driving car movie and all that kind of
So
thing.
you and Jason are friends.
Yeah, I know. I love the Cannonball Run. The first movie crush that I had with the girls in the black Lamborghini. I remember growing up just totally having a crush on those girls. Like, it must have been the car or the whole thing.
So you had a crush on the car. The girls were just there.
Well, back when I was, that's pretty much, pretty much.
The girls are just the accessories. Is that what you're
Exactly,
saying? Okay.
exactly. You know, like every car has options. This one had 2. Or 4, depending. I mean, you know. So, anyways.
I'd like to stress right now the opinions shared on this podcast are those of the person speaking them. Not
no,
the
but
entire
seriously,
panel.
You're never going to direct a Disney movie.
Yeah, that's right. No, but the Cannonball Run, and like I said, that was it. And it's funny because I don't even remember their names, but it was like the first time I remember watching a movie, and wow, those girls are pretty cute. We're the 2 girls in the black Lamborghini, but it was just a fun car movie. The opening scene, the really fun. It's kind of like a funk tune with the bass and the guitar riff and everything as the car is screaming across the on the highway. That was just awesome. Crazy enough is that it was based on a real race that was pretty cool. When you read about the actual Cannonball Sea to Shining Sea trophy dash, it was a serious thing, and the movie guys tried to make a more of a serious movie about that actual road race, but it ended up being a little bit more silly. But anyways, I like the Cannonball Run. The cars are fun, and the whole thing. And there are some pretty surprising things in there that did happen in real life, like an ambulance. One crew did race an ambulance across the country, and supposedly they were being interviewed later, and the whole thing of when they did get pulled over and kind of conned their way out of it, that really happened. And they were on a show talking about the race, and all of a sudden there was a call in, and it was the highway patrolman, and he goes, by the way, I was the guy that stopped you, and he says, you totally got me. That's hilarious. Like, he called into the show and, you know, found out about it and the whole thing. So yeah, Cannonball Run. UHF, I'm a big Weird Al fan, and the movie UHF, I just can't get enough of. I remember seeing it as a kid, and I mean, I grew up with Weird Al Yankovic, and so like that kind of humor worked. And I mean, just all the scenes, like the riff, the riff on Indiana Jones at the beginning. I mean what was the other one when he does the Rambo thing, where he's just like taking guys down and he's flying in the helicopter and he's screaming before he's launching rockets and blowing people up and all that. it's just one funny gag after another, and I still, whenever I think of some kid does it, oh, you're so stupid, because the guys with the karate school next door, and like there's always people flying through the air. So yeah, loved UHF. Next up, Iron Eagle. I saw this movie as a kid at my neighbor's house, and I mean, I know I've said it before. I love planes. I think that is so cool. I am going to learn to fly someday. I'm going to get my pilot's license. I don't have the money to do it right now, but I mean, it was just like from when I was a kid, and I'd see planes fly over. It was like, man, if I could just do that, that would just be the coolest thing known to mankind. And so when this movie came out, yeah, it's cheesy, and there's infinitely crazy quotes infinite amount of quotes that you can pull from this movie that are just like, oh geez, really? But it's cool. The kid goes over and rescues his dad, gets to fly the top line fighter, the F-16 and all that. Had that really cool plane motorcycle race in it, and I remember that I saw this at a friend's house, and it was like the one that we'd always throw on. Like every time, we'd get together and we'd throw the Iron Eagle on, watch it, and then we were getting into remote control planes. We'd go out in his backyard and fly remote control planes and end up crashing them into the house and all that kind of thing. So Iron Eagle is definitely up there. And then, let me see, the thing just kind of slipped down. I think the next one, Big Trouble in Little China. Big Trouble in Little China. We did that movie I think, was it last year? Mm-hmm. But yeah, great.
They all run together.
Well, it does at some point.
When it's been 200 episodes.
Yeah, it has. Big Trouble in Little China. I mean, just great movie. I mean, Kurt Russell being Kurt Russell. Great action sequences. Funny, quotable movie. Loved Big Trouble in Little China. Check out our episode on that because we did that. And then finally, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. And I like reading about history, and this was an awesome take on history, where these guys, in a phone booth with, the heavy into the rock and roll and how that was going to bring the world together. So, they get these guys and have an adventure, and then, seeing historical figures let loose in the 1980s, present day, that was awesome. So, yeah, those are my guilty pleasures, and love watching them.
All right, Jeff, what do you got?
I keep looking at lists just to see if I need to change.
Well,
Right.
That's the problem.
The tough thing about that is like I said, the distinguishing factor of that they're not generally held in high regard.
Right.
Because I can think of those movies and I'm like those, and that's why I'm saying it's like.
Well, that was my problem too. It was like
a critical review.
Right. Well, because my problem
popular, didn't make enough money.
My problem was the same as Pat's problem was, I don't really care. Like, I don't care if other people don't like it. I still like it. So I had a hard time distinguishing between what would be like other people would think is like when one of the definitions is something you'd almost be ashamed to say that you enjoyed. I'm like, well,
you would never be ashamed.
I don't care. I'm not ashamed that I enjoy it.
You like it, but you
I
could see where people might be like, you like that movie? Like that.
Did I cry a little bit when Sharon and I watched The Notebook? Yes. Shut up. You shut your pie hole.
You are hot.
You're so...
Look, we all might be directing Guardians. Okay, let's just.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's the
They
movie
need somebody.
that would garner someone saying, "Really, you like that?" Like just got to be ready to throw down.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
All right. So on that note,
yeah, Jeff, fire it up.
Back to the Beach.
Oh!
Sorry, Frankie Avalon and Annette Funicello, Connie Stevens. Don Adams makes an appearance as a harbor master.
You like that?
I've never even heard of this movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Get out of here.
No,
Are you serious?
I've never heard of it.
Do you know how to Jamaica ska? Jamaica ska.
So good.
Oh yeah.
It's so craptastic because they're totally making fun of themselves.
Yeah.
And all the beach movies that Frankie and Annette used to do. That I don't know. There's just something about that movie. If I see it on, or if I'll come across it going through Netflix or whatever, I'm like, this movie. Of course, I'll spend an hour and a half watching this movie again because.
Why didn't we do this last year?
I don't know. You put the list together.
Well, I know, but I asked for feedback.
And Jeff, I'm just going to say, the scene, because during the summer, I not in terms of surfing, because we don't not by an ocean, but I become a beachcomber, for skiing and being on the lake, those. And when all the surf dudes are sitting there, and all of a sudden the surf alert comes up, and they've got the screens, they're like, oh, dude, and they're calling all the waves, and they've got the surf report, everyone's scattered. I love that scene. That is, Awesome choice.
It's a lot of fun. It's a stupid movie. It's awful. It's horrible. It probably should never have been made, but my God, is it fun. And I think really a lot of it has to do with my parents, who were huge fans of the Mickey Mouse Club back when that was on. So the Annette Funicello tie-in there, they may be why I initially saw this movie. Is through them, and they watched it and they're like, "Oh, you should watch this because it's Annette and it's Frankie." So yeah,
Pee Wee Herman's in this movie.
yeah, he does a little cameo.
Oh, yeah, he.
Yeah. For men.
All right. I'm gonna have to check it out now because I have never heard of this.
Well, don't expect much.
No, I'm not going to.
And the bartender. Oh, come on, buddy! I need you. I do. That's what you said last.
Keith Richards lives on these.
Stunned Alex.
Yes. Oh, so great. So next one on my list.
Good choice.
Masters of the Universe.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's Masters of the
It's
Universe.
Masters of the Universe.
And there's a lot of things wrong with it, and at the same time, if there's that many things wrong with it, then nothing's wrong with
gotta
it,
be
and
right.
it's great.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Bill and Ted,
Mm-hmm.
because again, God, that movie it's so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And when it came out, I think the wrong people reviewed it and didn't understand what they were trying to do with the movie or who it was supposed to be for, and it got lambasted in reviews. And because it has just it has that definition of just being an awful movie, and it's not. It is a lot of fun.
It's awesome.
Yeah. The quotes you can have.
Yeah, it's highly quotable.
Demon's High School football rules. I mean, you could throw that. Oh,
Well, we end every podcast by saying "be excellent to each other."
Yeah.
And actually, our friend Jason Colvin actually sent me a tweet the other day. Some online T-shirt store was selling T-shirts that said "be excellent to each other," and he was like, "Maybe this should be like official podcast T-shirts." Okay.
I like the
Do
way
they
he
make
thinks.
them in very large sizes?
I don't know. Be XX excellent to each other.
That's 3 X's.
That's three. Oh, that's inappropriate.
That is.
Okay, just 2 X's.
Yeah, I can't tell how many times I will leave a conversation with someone like, "Catch you later, Bill and Ted."
Yeah.
Whether they get it or not, I don't care because it's fun for me.
Mm-hmm.
Short Circuit.
I will say too, from Bill and Ted, anytime that we are as a family, if we're having ice cream, the last person to finish their ice cream, I will always sit there and I'll go, "Ziggy, Piggy, Ziggy, Piggy." Yeah. And the kids have never seen the movie, so they get a little weirded out.
Mom, Dad's doing that thing again.
What's the Ziggy Piggy?
Just let it be. It'll be over soon.
Uh-huh.
Short Circuit.
Yes.
I can watch that movie again and again,
Mm-hmm.
and again and again. Back to Back in the Beach when they do that song.
Yes.
We go on forever.
Somebody give me a net. That's not what I meant. Oh.
I'm so glad you're here.
I'm sorry. I keep interrupting. I'm sorry.
I'm glad you're here because
Back-
I was like, I'm saying Back to the Beach, and everyone's gonna look at me like,
No,
And
man.
one, they won't know what the hell I'm talking about.
No, I
or
don't.
two, they're gonna sit
It
here in
is-
total judgment of me.
It is bloody brilliant.
And then there's Pat here who's like, no, right on. Way to start the list.
I know. That surf report scene. Oh, God, I love that. Dude, Zuma's happening, man. Get out there.
What was I talking about?
Talking about?
Short Circuit. Yes. I mean, we podcasted that one, didn't
Oh,
we?
yeah, yeah.
If you're interested in our thoughts on that one, go back and find that episode. It's fun. It will never not be fun. That was a movie that came out around the time when I can remember, like, the experience of going to a movie. So, I think there's some nostalgia there for me, which is why I like that one.
It's like if you like RoboCop, but you also like romantic comedies.
What?
Like if you like RoboCop, but you also like romantic comedies.
I don't understand.
If you want to go see a movie about a robot that shoots at and potentially kills people, but then you also want a romantic comedy, there's Short Circuit.
Wow.
I'm trying.
So
to
next
make
on my
it-
list.
Thanks for leaving me out there to hang, guys.
Sorry, man. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Well, did you guys understand where he was going with that?
Yeah.
Did you really? Are you here right now?
Kinda.
It's good to see you guys.
Anyway, carry on.
Anyway, last time on the list, which is my list is ever changing, of course. I put The Dark Crystal, which is one of the two big Henson movies of the 80s. I think, as I'm learning, it's the lesser loved between that and Labyrinth. Dark Crystal, I don't think gets as much love as Labyrinth does.
I'll mention something about that when I get
Probably because, no David Bowie or Jennifer Connelly. But I don't know. There's something about Dark Crystal that it captivated me when I was a kid. And just that entire world is so well thought out and put together that
It's a cool movie.
Have you been reading any of the comics?
No.
'Cause they've done a new comic series.
I heard about
with
it, but I haven't
And they're
read
doing
it.
a new TV series too, I think, either through
That they've
like
talked about for a
Netflix
while.
or- yeah,
I don't know if that's ever going to come to fruition.
yeah. But there's the comic is supposed to be pretty good. I haven't been picking that one up. I have been picking up the Labyrinth comic, but the Dark Crystal one's supposed to be pretty good.
Cool.
But yeah, so they're my 5 guilty pleasure movies
Okay.
of the 80s.
Those
There we
are
go.
awesome.
All right, Dennis.
See, this is okay. The reason I didn't fill out the form
Here we
before
go.
is because it's almost impossible.
Mm-hmm.
I almost needed like genres.
So just
I
because
need, like-
something's impossible, you don't do it?
That's that's pretty much how I work.
Okay.
That's what my
Deep
to-do list-
Thoughts
my to-do
by
list.
Dennis Matucci.
Well, I needed categories. I needed like 5 romantic comedies. 5. I worked better with that, I think.
Yeah.
Because, and then taking that whole part again of like what was I was running through my head going, okay, well if I say, like some of the movies we say like Princess Bride, people love Princess Bride.
Right.
But I think comfort movie or not comfort. I think guilty pleasure. But at the same time, like you said, things that people might go, you really like that movie? Like where you might get people who absolutely hate it. I think more polarizing films, I guess, is what I would call it. Or ones that people would be surprised going, wow, you like that movie. So Pee-wee's Big Adventure could fit that because although
like
it did
that
well, it was great, but there's people who will say that to you, like, I just don't get it. Like, why is it funny? So that was the struggle with coming up with the list. And I figured that if, work on good on pressure so that as it got closer and closer, I'd just be forced to put something down. And I've been going through the list now.
So how do you feel about the 5 that you have on the list right
so
now?
the 5 that I have on the list aren't bad. I think they fit that category as it was described versus because I could throw a lot of the movies you guys are saying. I'd be saying the same thing. I'm thinking like that's a great movie, but everybody thinks it's a great. I mean, who doesn't think that's a great movie?
See, I think
and that's where I
we're
kept
running
running into trouble.
that line in Ocean's 11 when
The original or the remake?
the remake,
George Clooney.
George Clooney one, when she says, "See, here's your problem. You've met too many people like you," and that's our problem. Is like in here, our tastes tend to mostly run very much the same. So we're like, why don't people get? So you almost have to look at it like, what would my parents say when I watch this movie, or what would other folks that, you know what I'm saying, that isn't us? And I think that's kind of why
I feel like
we're.
I should put that movie on my list somewhere.
Yeah, I know, right?
Damn.
But anyways,
So I'm gonna go through
Go
it.
for
I'm
it.
gonna
Fire it up.
I'll give you. So first one I have is one called Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody's seen that one before. John has.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but a lot of people might be like, well, it wasn't a big, huge hit or anything, so that's why I felt it fit the category well. That's the one where two kind of, it's described as two bumbling people work at a medic. I think they work at the mortuary or so, whatever. They unleash this lethal gas and it basically starts to return people and all become zombies. But it's very much a comedy in many ways as well as a scary zombie film. And it's just, there's some great lines in there. It's just a funny movie. I remember my dad watching that. I remember that there's a lady dancing on the grave. Remember that as a kid. That one stuck out. But anyway,
Yes, it did.
So Return of the Living Dead is definitely one of those.
Well, and that
kinda
was
came across the list.
And that was like one of the first times that wasn't that one of the first times that really a zombie movie was kind of like a horror comedy?
I think so, yeah. Because
Yeah.
everything you expected up until then was pretty serious, and
Yeah.
then this one came out and it was like, wait, it's sort of scary. You're scared at times, but you're not. It's funny too. And then, yeah.
Was that the one too where the zombies? I know that the difference between that one and some of the others were the zombies in here specifically wanted brains.
Yeah.
Was that the one? Was that the first time a zombie actually spoke and was
I
like
think it was
brains?
yeah.
Because my dad would always like chase us around the house and be like
Yeah,
brains.
and my
and,
dad
it
did
was
the
from
same
that,
thing. Yeah, so that's why that one is just one that it wasn't on streaming or anything for a while because I think I looked for it. And I don't know if it is now or not, but I was always trying to find that movie. It's not like in the library all the time, so it's a little bit hard to find.
For October, I was going to try to have us do Return of the Living Dead Part 2.
Okay.
And I cannot find a copy anywhere.
Okay.
So I don't know if we're going to end up doing it. It will be the 60th 50th, 60th anniversary of the original Night of the Living Dead. So we might do that one in October. But I was going to have us do Return of the Living Dead Part 2, and I can't find. They're not easy to find. The copies of the movies are not easy to find because I guess they're not. Although I guess later this month they're coming out with a Blu-ray, like a collector's edition Blu-ray of it.
Oh, that one.
So yeah.
Okay. So that's that's good.
That's a good one.
I'm gonna skip my next one. I'm gonna go to Evil Dead. So Evil Dead was in there, and I think there's people again who there's a cult following for Evil Dead, but it wasn't.
Is that
Evil Dead is with
that's the okay with the that became
what's his name?
That's the
Bruce.
first one, Bruce Campbell. Yeah.
Bruce Campbell. Okay, I was like,
Campbell.
yeah, I've seen that. Okay.
So that one I remember again, similar sort of feel to it, where it's a scary film, but it's hilarious. So
Yeah.
it was just those stuck out, and anytime those are on, I'm watching. And again, based on the description for this category, that's what I was kind of thinking of. Things that other people might go, you're kind of crazy. What do you? I don't know. That's too goofy or too silly, but you'd watch. Threw a little bit different genre in with Some Kind of Wonderful, and I look at that as the least famous.
God, that movie's so good.
The least famous of all the John Hughes films, I think, and the least popular in some ways, as far as when I say popular, people knowing it, not that people see it, like it. So I was kind of torn, do I throw that in there? Because to me it's a guilty pleasure in the fact that not many people are aware of it. But at the same time, I think when people watch it, I think they do like it. Pee-wee's Big Adventure is in there as well. Again, there's people. I think people either get Pee-wee or don't get Pee-wee, but some of the silly jokes in there are just really, really good. And then what was my last one? 1 second, I got the last one because I have down on there. I have UHF as well, but I had swapped out a few different things. I was just trying to give something different. And the one that I think I had was in this category. Oh, the Twilight Zone movie.
Okay. Yeah.
Because again, that didn't get great reviews, I believe. From what I remember, it wasn't reviewed very well, but for some reason, it's still there's a cut. I mean, there's some episodes on there that are just the John Lithgow on the plane one competes right with the William Shatner version. I think it's maybe even better. The
kid
kick
where-
the can, the
Yeah.
kid who
With the
I
whole
show that in
family
my
is
class all the time.
Yeah.
The one with the little boy who has the
Controls
power,
everything in it,
the different spin on the old one.
Now the Twilight Zone movie.
Twilight Zone the movie. This is the one where you had pretty hot directors at the time, Landis and a bunch of other people. They went and they did a movie called The Twilight Zone in tribute to The Twilight Zone. Some of them did remakes of old classics.
But it was short stories. And
Short
just
stories, it was like
sequential.
4 or 5
Okay.
short stories, all kind of grouped. Burgess Meredith is the narrator.
Okay.
So that one, I actually have the DVD for that, and I'll show that like even in class a couple of those. So I like that. Again, didn't get great reviews, I believe, as a film back then, from what I remember. There was the whole issue with unfortunate tragedy during it, where Vic Morrow gets killed, and a couple of the young workers, the kids, the actors, child actors. But so it kind of has that sort of taintedness to it, but still, it's just one that at the time I kind of watch it.
Question about Evil Dead. Now we saw Evil Dead 2,
Yeah.
which is kind of a remake of Evil Dead, not a
Correct.
sequel.
Yeah.
What would be the differences between like Evil Dead, the one you're referencing, and Evil Dead 2? I know they tweaked the story, but was there kind of an outlook in terms of one was more low budget, or one tried to be more horror/comedy, or was it just kind of?
Evil
So,
Dead 1 was lower budget because it was more of like a college film
Clearly,
that they
yeah.
put together, and then Evil Dead 2 was kind of like they were given more money. They're like, "Hey, we really like your college film. That's awesome. Here's some more money." And then, so they kind of basically took Evil Dead 1 and remade it, but cleaned up the script a little bit, and special effects were better and things like that. So, did you pick Evil Dead 2 or Evil Dead 1 because you just figured less people would have seen
Yes,
it, or
yes.
okay,
Got it.
just because it's a lower, not lower quality, but like lower budget movie.
Yeah, lower budget. I figured in less people. And again, I was kind of going by which are the least that either people know about, popular, or like those type of things as I was trying to go through the list. But I think like even like Killer Clowns from Outer Space. That one. See,
so
like
great.
again, see,
I
we
love
all
that
think it's
movie.
great, so it's hard to choose because I'm like,
Right.
but I think there's people out there who go, oh my God, why would you waste your time watching that? So.
Why not waste your time watching it?
It's an hour and a half of your life that you want to give away
Right.
to this movie.
Yeah, and so
Take it.
coming to those movies and going through the ones for the 80s, I mean, those are there's more out there. It was such a
Of
tough
course.
the Road Warrior. Just and that's why I said genres for me are like help me narrow things down. When you give me this blank page of movies, all of them, it's like I have a hard time like focusing on that. Just because it's like, okay, now you're telling me romantic comedies, now I can go boom, 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 and pick those out. So that almost makes it easier. When there's all those movies, it just
I
could just swap out. Back to School.
I
think Easy
No,
Money
too,
might
yeah.
be, and that's the next one that my kids, by the way, we're going to try and watch. I'm going to preview it again first, but Easy Money, because I just saw a clip that somebody had on Facebook, and I was thinking of this anyway. It was weird, so I'm like, it's time to watch the movie. Easy Money with Rodney Dangerfield, where he has to clean up his act in order to inherit millions of dollars or whatever from the mother-in-law or whatever. Joe Pesci's in it. It's a classic. We're just browsing. We're just browsers, you know. Hey, we're browsers. You know?
Yeah.
So that whole thing, there's just so many.
I love Back to
categories.
School.
Yeah, Back to School and then Easy Money.
Why don't you call me sometime when you have no class?
Yeah. I mean, then you could throw in your Police Academy.
Yeah.
It's 1980s. You got Airplane. I think just makes it at 1980, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So it was just.
Yeah.
It's tough. I would be like him, adding more on the list.
Yeah.
So.
All right, my list. Masters of the Universe already got mentioned, and I don't know that I need to say any more about that. I remember waiting in line to go see that the weekend it came out. Absolutely loved it. And I think just as a kid who had nearly every He-Man toy imaginable, when this thing came out, it was just, yes, please, more. Give me more. Krull. I don't know, have you guys ever seen Krull?
Yes.
Here's Krull.
Good
I love that
choice.
movie as a
Yeah.
kid. Like, I vividly can picture, especially the scene where the Cyclops gets crushed as he's trying to hold that kind of passageway open, and he gets. And I remember as a kid just being like, "Whoa, that! I did not see that coming." Like that actually traumatized me. I think as a kid, I'm like, "Well, I love that character, but he just died." And then you've got the other scenes that little, and I forget what it was called, the little weapon that he's got that he throws and it has knives on it, and spins around and like cuts through all the stuff, and yeah.
That was a cool movie.
No, I like that movie. 16 Candles. So I know that we did an episode on 16 Candles way back
That was like
when we first
episode
started.
2, I think.
That was like one of our first, Breakfast Club. Well, no, actually, I think we did them at the same
Yeah.
time. Yeah. So 16 Candles, I will watch 16 Candles over and over and over again. I love that movie. It's kind of like, I look at that movie as being as quotable as something like a Bill and Ted. And I don't know why I would have watched this movie a lot growing up as a
Farmer
kid.
Ted.
What's
I'm
that?
not really a farmer.
Yeah, well, it's also got a Ted in it, so that works fine. You mind if I borrow your underpants?
Nerd, can I be blunt? Not if you're going to insult me.
So, love that movie. Where's the car? Car. Automobile. Lake. Big lake. I put Superman 3. So I was trying to think of the different Superman movies and which one I might consider as a guilty pleasure movie of the 80s. And as a kid, I really liked Superman 4. But I've watched it since then, and I've grown up. And I don't like...
Did that make the last category?
No, it didn't even make the last category. I was like,
Jeez.
nope, I'm going to distance myself from that real fast. So, Superman 3. I actually went with Superman 3 because Superman 3, a lot of people really don't like Superman 3. That they
Scared
complain... What's that?
That movie scared me.
Richard Pryor.
Was it the robot
Yeah.
woman at the end?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Or like when she gets sucked into the machine
Uh-huh.
and it starts
And all the
converting.
wires start
yeah,
going across her face. And
That's
Mhm.
weird.
terrified me as a
Yeah,
kid.
that was
Uh-huh.
scary.
So, this movie, I keep thinking about this movie. I'm like, every time I read anything about it, people are like, yeah, it's one of the worst Superman movies. That movie sucked. That movie, and I think back to, and I even watched it a couple years ago, and I keep thinking about it. I'm like, you know what? I can't find anything about that movie that I don't like. Is it a really awesome Superman movie? No. Is it a fun movie to watch? Yeah, sure it is. Like, I think of all the different scenes, even the Richard Pryor scenes that have nothing to do with Superman, those are funny scenes. But then I think back to one of my favorite moments of any Superman movie is the Clark Kent Superman fight that's in the junkyard.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, that scene's in the movie, so that automatically makes it fine. So, Superman 3. Labyrinth. I put Labyrinth as my last one because, and this was my comment I was going to make when you said Dark Crystal, I was back and forth between Dark Crystal and Labyrinth.
Okay.
And I looked it up, and I think, at least on the few websites I could find,
Dark Crystal at least got higher reviews from critics. So
Did it?
yeah, I think
Okay.
so. Just slightly, not by much, but I think Dark Crystal slightly higher reviews from critics. So that's the only reason I put Labyrinth instead of Dark Crystal was I thought, it's as much as it's a cult classic, and I think the people we surround ourselves with probably all enjoy this movie, or at least they should, or they're wrong. But that was the only reason I went Labyrinth instead of Dark Crystal, because it just seemed like there were slightly lower reviews from critics on that one. But love that movie, and we did an episode on that one a couple years ago, so we can always go back and check that too. One of the things about making some of these lists, especially when we do like the lists of the 80s, is I always feel bad that we've missed so many amazing movies that were before we started our podcast. Like, I totally would love to do a podcast on Krull, or on The Dark Crystal, or on like any one of these.
we
that
still
missed.
can because it's our podcast.
Well,
We
that's
can do
true.
what we
We
want.
do whatever.
Did I tell you what my dad said when I said we're doing this podcast? He's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, well, you can talk about this."
Yeah, you were saying.
Did I say? Did I,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
What about this one? Well, Dad, that's 1978. That's not it.
but it's before it was before 30 years ago. Well, you're skipping a whole bunch of really good movies, and I was like, "All right, well, we're trying to follow a theme." But yeah, it's the same thing. It's like, geez, look at all these really awesome movies. Yeah.
So, I had a plan to kind of take a tangent for a second. I had a plan that for next year.
I have a plan.
I have a plan. I love it when a
Ouch.
plan comes together. One of my ideas for next year was, since it's 89, it's the last year of the 80s, that we kind of mix in some 1989 movies with what are some movies that we missed from the 80s that we'd like to go back and do that we didn't get a chance to do the first time around. So we can think about that.
Red Sonja.
Oh man, that was almost on my list. I love that movie.
I'm kidding.
I love that movie. Can we go back and do another episode on Red Sonja?
I won't be there.
Redder Sonja?
Anyway.
No? Okay.
Moving on.
All right. So our next category is guilty. Oh no, our next category is. Do we want to do comfort movies of the 80s, or do we want to stay in the 80s, or do we want to go to guilty pleasure movies of all time?
You can go to the
What do you wanna
80s
do?
really quick.
You can do 80s?
Go faster.
Okay, we'll go with the 80s. So comfort
Dennis
movies.
hasn't gotten to the other category
Okay.
yet.
Still working through that list there. All right. So comfort movies of the 80s. So Pat, what are your comfort movies of the 1980s?
All right. So,
So these, again, what are we saying is comfort movie?
Yeah, I wasn't sure how you define this one.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, well, for my list,
I'm going by the list that like you said. on the
maybe
doc.
we
I'm
should.
thinking of like what movies
Each
just
one
make
of us
you
is probably
feel
going to
good.
kind of define it, but
Yeah, you could.
That's
See,
what makes this
but
podcast
then
great.
In your
Right.
description, you had comfort movies were those that we can just put on and watch at any time.
Mhm.
Correct?
yeah.
Doesn't necessarily make me feel good, but I can. But,
Right.
But it
Yeah.
typically would.
All right. So comfort movies of the 80s.
First one up's got to be Top Gun.
Mhm.
I mean, everything I said about Iron Eagle with planes and flying, and that goes like 110% for. I don't believe in before more than 100%. Sorry, that goes 100% for Top Gun. I mean, when I saw that movie, I saw it when it came out. Maybe not in the theater, but I saw it when it came out. So I must have been like 8 or 9 when I saw that movie. And I watched that thing. I recorded it when it was on TV. I figured out how to work the video player, so I had my own recording of it, and I wore that tape out. I watched that thing so many times because I recorded it after TV. Awesome. It just perfectly, and we did the podcast on Top Gun, it perfectly blends like pretty awesome plane sequences that aren't too like not believable. They do some things that are
With Val Kilmer, who is also not believable.
exactly. And so they've got all these plane sequences, but then they not dumb it down, but they make it like action oriented enough that you don't have to get too much into.
They make it so I can understand.
They make it so we can understand,
Yeah.
right? But it just makes it look so cool. Flying an airplane off of an aircraft carrier, landing it, and again, the movie makes it look cool. I mean, obviously, there's a reality there whenever you look at, our service personnel. But I mean, that again, I'm just going to requote myself. When I saw that movie, I was like, man, if I could do that for a living, that would be the coolest thing ever. And our colleague Jen Greenwell talks about that too. When she saw that movie, like the two of us, we didn't know each other, but we both saw that movie and it was like, I want to fly planes for the Navy. That looks awesome. So yeah, Top Gun, infinitely quotable, great airplane sequences, and that plane, the F-14 Tomcat's always going to have a special place in my heart because, I mean, it was so cool. I remember we had 3 students in Cape through here, in brothers and sisters, and their dad flew an F-14 Tomcat.
Right.
And as soon as I found that out, man, I would corner that poor man every time I could.
You get an A and you get an A.
Yeah, and I would.
Now, can I talk to your dad?
Yeah, and it was like I would just ask. It would almost be like he was so kind, but I mean, it would always like, okay, kid, get away from me, stop asking me, that kind of stuff. All right.
I'd like to schedule a parent-teacher conference. Well, my child's in high school now. They're not even in. It's okay. It's all right.
It's okay. I got your phone number still from the power school. Okay, I'll keep flying through the list. Die Hard.
Mm-hmm.
Just a fun movie to watch, and Bruce Willis just being that iconic Bruce Willis character, written so well.
Well, that was before he was the Bruce Willis.
That was
character,
making
though.
it. It was
like he was creating.
He was creating it. Yeah, and
because he was just doing he was on Moonlighting.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but just great quotes and I mean it's like.
And we'll get into that. What next year?
Yeah, that's next year.
And
man.
action sequences, like dropping the C4 down the elevator and having that blown up. The lines, we're going to need to get some more FBI guys, Send in the car! Send in the car! And,
Ho, ho, ho.
now I've got a machine gun. Ho, ho, up. And you know what? An excellent villain.
When
I mean,
Alexander looked over the breadth of his domain, he wept, for there were no more worlds to conquer.
oh my gosh. Alan Rickman.
May he rest in peace.
Alan Rickman is just phenomenal actor. And what a great villain. I mean,
Shoot the glass.
that's...
Oh, I can't wait for that episode.
I know.
It's going to be so much fun.
It is. So
I've owned that movie in many different formats.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
I triple dipped on that one.
And you can jump in the middle. You can start at the beginning. Yeah, excellent movie.
I was at a educational conference a couple years ago, and I was staying for the entire weekend. So I got a hotel, and I was like, there's no movies I want to go see because at night when the thing was done, I was like, there's no movies I want to go see. There's not really anything else I want to go do. So I went over to the Target.
What's this
and I was
channel?
Well, no, didn't pay for that channel. So I go over to the Target, and I'm like, well. I have a laptop. I can play some movies on it. And I'm looking around. I'm like, I don't want to spend a whole lot of money because I've got a ton of movies at home. I'm looking. All of a sudden, I come across the Die Hard 4 movie DVD set. I'm like, okay, you're coming back with me. I think I spent the rest of the night. Come with me if you want to be watched.
That's right.
I think I spent the rest of the night watching through all of the DVDs in that set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So next up, Blues Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll just keep it brief. I mean, Dan Aykroyd and I'll never
John
forget what's
Belushi.
his name. John Belushi, plus all the other characters they put in there. Great comic geniuses with phenomenal music. I mean, just great musical artists and just a great ride. Wonderful car chase, the humor. That movie worked on every level.
Do you have a Miss Piggy?
Do you have this in Miss Piggy? Right. Yeah,
I
did
do every time I go to like a drive-through
Mhm.
and I want to order something. Like in the back of my mind, I'm just like, I want to order four fried chickens and a Coke.
Yeah, that's right. Orange whip, three orange
I
whip.
shouldn't, but
Yeah, I know. And did I mention the phenomenal soundtrack and music and all that kind of thing? Yeah, all right, here it is.
Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah, I know. 89 Batman.
Dun.
89 Batman. We're going to be talking about that one next year.
I'm Batman.
Yeah.
Who are you, man?
Yeah. I'm Batman. And
I'm Batman.
And
I want you to tell all your friends about me.
yeah, but it didn't even have that growl in there. It was just a
No.
whisper.
Yes.
And I mean, it got the Tim Burton treatment, okay, of Batman.
Until Christian Bale had to growl everything.
Yeah, I know, but whenever it all I knew was the da 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 da. So this was like
Right.
a whole new world, and I know Heath Ledger really like killed the role, but Jack Nicholson did too. That was
he
bloody
was
brilliant.
great.
I mean, holy buckets, that's an awesome depiction of Batman. And I'm just gonna say, where does he get those wonderful toys? I mean, the Batwing, the Batmobile, that was cool. That was just cool
That one
stuff.
goes up silhouetted by the moon.
I know. Yeah. Neato. All right, Commando. Yeah, go back and listen to that episode. I never saw it growing up, and then it was just like, Neo learning karate in
And
like 2
you
seconds.
You grew up in that episode.
Yeah, that was Commando. Is just I can just keep watching that thing. That's pretty cool. And then the last one I threw on there. I know I skipped over. I jumped over the 5. I jumped the rails there. But here's my honorable mention. Dennis brought it up. I'm gonna put Road Warrior down.
Yeah.
Yeah, great film. And you know what? That's one that
It brings
like,
you comfort.
the critics all like it though. Like if you look,
That's
the critics
why I
all.
was like, yeah. I
but
guess
like
they
if you
did.
go tell someone the Road Warrior, it's like what the heck. But I mean,
Yeah.
that was a pretty cool movie, and it's.
I just didn't know if it did it make. I guess it made more because of Mad Max.
Right.
Because Mad Max would make the least out of that series then. It was the first one, I think. Road Warriors already had the bigger budget.
Yeah, and then Max Beyond Thunderdome was okay. That was
It
weird.
was bigger because it had Tina Turner in it, but
Yeah.
it wasn't as good.
But then the reboot when they redid just recently Fury Road. I mean,
Oh,
holy
yeah.
cow, that sucker was.
That's
I mean,
amazing.
and it's sort of like
So I've not seen any of these movies.
oh, Jeffrey,
I know.
you should start to with Mad Max, but like the Road Warrior is pretty awesome.
Thomas is probably old enough.
The Road Warriors
Is
is
it?
pretty good.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
4.5 months is.
And that
Oh,
car,
that's fine,
the V8 Interceptors. Oh, how cool was that? Whenever he throw the supercharger and they just zoom in on that, bam, and then he'd go.
The look at that.
Yeah. He's got the arrow through him. All right, I'm gonna open the door. One,
Yeah.
pulls. Oh man. So those are my
Nice.
comfort movies.
Very nice.
I know a guy who can haul that tanka.
I'm gonna laugh too, so I feel included.
That little kid. That little kid.
Oh, he's the best.
With the thing. with
Yeah,
the
I know.
hair.
Now you know how I felt with Back to the Beach.
kind of like my kids.
That's how you,
My wild
that's how you
feral
guys
children.
describe your kids in the summers. They can't remember.
All right. Someone's got to leave soon.
Someone's got to leave soon. Okay, gotta keep going. All right.
Let's stay focused, please.
All right, focus.
All right, Hefe, what brings you comfort?
Well, ice cream, cheeseburgers, tears, lots of tears. All right, comfort movies of the 80s. Princess Bride,
Yes.
always. I don't care.
Yep.
I love the fact that I can teach a class now where I've incorporated it into the curriculum and share it with new generations of children every year, and they love it, and I love that they love it. My God, it's great.
As you wish.
Oh. The Goonies.
Yeah. Never say die.
Never say die. Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Mm-hmm.
I can't even speak about this movie. I attach so much of my youth to this movie that I adore this film. I just remember as a kid being so struck by what I was seeing consistently throughout the movie, the combination of animation and real life and the 3D movement of the animation that I'd never seen before. Like, there have been snippets of things here and there where they've done animation and real life. Mary Poppins had that sequence. Gene Kelly danced with Jerry the Mouse. But it was all flat. There wasn't movement around a three-dimensional space. This turned that on its heels. And I just remember just watching it again and again, trying to figure out how they do that. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Part of his childhood, or growing up, you think, having crushes on fictional animated characters.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
She's not bad. She's just drawn that way.
Yeah.
Jesus drunk.
Does she have a black Lamborghini?
I remember seeing Honey, I Shrunk the
Maybe.
I remember seeing Honey, I Shrunk the Kids in theaters when it came out.
That's next year. Yeah.
Movie's great.
Mhm.
I had a lot of fun with that movie.
Mm-hmm.
And my friends and I used to pretend that we were shrunk. And we, go through the woods and pretend like, the trees were actually blades of grass.
Did you ever go to Disney when they had the Honey I Shrunk the Kids?
No.
Yeah. That was
The
the
play
only
area.
the only time that we went was when I was about maybe 10, and they had that play area. It was in the MGM Studios
Mhm.
part, and
That's cool.
that was awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah, God only knows what that's become now.
Yeah.
I think
I don't
they
think it's-
changed it to,
I think it was a Bug's Life for a while.
yeah, Bug's Life for a while.
Yeah.
They may have gotten rid of it now
I
to
don't think it's
build
there anymore. Yeah. It's probably part of Star Wars land.
Star Wars Land. Have
Yeah.
you seen the pictures?
No.
Holy. Oh.
Yeah, we're going in a couple of years. I'm
Um,
gonna give them time to finish.
Do the podcast down there.
Yeah, we're
E.T.
Mhm.
This movie just, I love the heart
Mhm.
of this movie, the story about the friendship and the trust and support that Elliot gives to E.T. and the connection that they have, the music for this, like
Mhm.
some of John Williams' best. And this is a guy that's composed how many movies? 50, 60, numerous amounts of movies. This is like towards the top of the list. His compositions for this, I can listen to the medley of E.T. and it takes me through every moment of that movie and all the emotions that I felt at the movie, to where by the time you get to the crescendo at the end of the music, at the end of the piece, I've got a lump in my throat because I'm thinking about the ride that this movie took me on.
I've got an article. I'm sorry, we're going to keep it flowing, but I went to Ravinia and I got their magazine, and in there they do a bunch of the movies and stuff. And there's a whole article on movie music. I'm going to bring it in. We can pass it around. And they feature Spielberg and Williams, and they talk about the collaborations.
They just did Raiders with live music.
Yeah, and E.T. is coming up there with live music. And
So good.
And John Williams actually, I just read this in the article, lists the scene when Elliot takes off with the bicycle as his favorite scene.
Dude,
of
I just
all-
got chills.
Yeah, but he
I
says
just got
that's,
chills thinking about
John
it.
Williams says that is his favorite scene.
Really?
I think if I got it right, if I'm quoting him right, I'm sorry if I didn't, Mr. Williams. But it says that scene when he's flying, that's his favorite. Where the music and like of all time, that's his favorite scene that he did. And all that. So sorry, I just wanted to, and I'll bring that for you to read too.
That's fantastic. And then finally, I have Field of Dreams. And I think I talked about this. It might have been on my individual episode way back when. But I remember, as a kid, I remember sitting down. This is one of the first movies that my dad and I actually watched together. He had it on. I was like, "Oh, what's this? Oh, Field of Dreams. Oh, it's a baseball movie, great." And he and I watched it together and share a connection and a bond over this movie. And he and I, and my brothers and my mom, have gone out to the Field of Dreams in Iowa a couple of times, and he and I played catch on the field, just like the father and son do at the end of the movie. And it's a very special movie for sure, but it gives me that feeling of it's never too late. It's never too late to make it better. So
I don't want to catch.
don't get me started.
You guys need to hug it out.
When he calls him dad.
Oh,
The whole conversation
And nothing.
where he doesn't address him except by
Finally,
John.
Dad, yeah.
And then finally at the end, Dad, do you want to have a catch? And just your heart shatters and just
I really like that. Isn't it? I think it's
Yeah, I'd like that.
I'd like that. Yeah. And then the pan.
and they got so many extras to drive in and line up the streets.
Yeah.
And they used a radio station to communicate with everyone in their cars. And they told them, oscillate your high beams in your headlights. So that's why it has that twinkling effect
nice.
as the cars are all in
Cool.
line there
That's
at
cool.
the end. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to
I'm
talking
tearing
about that one.
I'm tearing up.
That movie's so great.
Like legitimately.
All right, Denny.
I have sand from there.
What
I'm
do you
going to
got?
defer to you first.
Oh, you
and
want to go
I'll
first?
come back. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Need a moment?
I do.
After the Field of Dreams, you know what? All right. So my list,
I was in church when I went there.
Princess Bride, for the exact same reasons Jeff said, that I can just watch that movie anytime at all. And this, my list, I tried to think about like what movies just make me happy. Like what movies do I feel better inside after having watched them? Princess Bride, always, all the time, always happy. Star Wars, and I really couldn't narrow it down between Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi. But if I'm talking about movies that make me happy, I probably have to go Return of the Jedi because Empire Strikes Back, even though it's probably a better movie, has a bit of a downer end. So Return of the Jedi. Probably that's my pick between those two. Rocky IV. So Rocky IV, I love all of the Rocky movies. Five's even okay. But this is the one that just...
That's Bo's favorite with that wax on, wax off.
The wax on,
scene.
wax off one, yeah. Yeah. That's the best of the Rocky movies. So Rocky IV is one that... On occasion, if my brother and I were just, if it was like a rainy day outside and there was nothing else to do in the house, or if we were playing a game together or doing something else, every once in a while we would just be like, hey, you know what? I got nowhere else to go this weekend. I got nothing else, no other plans. You want to go to the library and rent all the Rocky movies? Mm-hmm. They're like, yeah, I do. So we'd go to the library, we would rent all five at that time, all five of the Rocky movies, and we would just sit there and we'd watch through them all. But sometimes we'd get to Rocky IV. Mm-hmm. Or sometimes we would rent all five Rocky movies and we would just go, why don't we just watch 4 a couple times? So we would just, Rocky IV is the one we put on repeatedly, and we were constantly quoting that back and forth to each other. And,
Right.
you know, if something went wrong, you know, I would always, or he would always say something like, if he dies, he dies. Or if my brother was like getting on my nerves or something, I would break you now. Like, love that movie, I must break you. So Rocky IV is my favorite of the Rocky movies. Superman 2, I put as the comfort movie.
The Donner cut?
Love that movie. What's that?
The Donner cut?
I like the Donner cut. I need to go back. I've only seen it once, so I need to watch it more to decide what I like better. But I think, and I've said this before, I attach
in many of the same ways that you do with Field of Dreams. Superman 2 is one of the earliest movies I remember watching with my dad. So I attach a lot of my dad loving this movie and my dad quoting a lot of the lines from this movie. You know, if I would do something and he didn't want me to, he'd be like, nope, wrong again, Zod. Or, you know, any of that stuff. He would just start laughing every time it got to the scene where Superman reversed their powers and he got his powers back and they didn't, and he just, you know, like crushes his hand and then he picks up Zod and Zod's like, oh, that whole time, and throws him down, and I just remember having so much fun watching that with my dad. So that is why Superman 2 is there for me. And then I put Dead Poets Society at the end. And Dead Poets Society, not necessarily a feel-good movie, but I love that
But
movie.
it is.
It is.
It
It is.
Yeah,
It is. I mean, there's definitely some sadness to it, but it's maybe not feel-good, but inspirational. Like, by the time I leave that movie, I don't necessarily feel great, but I'm at least inspired by
Well, when
everything
you
I've
leave,
seen.
you feel inspired for sure.
Right, I
Especially
feel inspired.
that
I don't know
classic
that
scene.
I don't know that I feel
What
comfortable
happens
and
right
good, but
before
right,
that
right.
really puts you in a what the heck? Wait,
Right.
this movie was like I'm feeling really good, and then all of a sudden that happens,
Right.
and you're like, whoa, and then it redeems,
Right.
or not redeems, but it recovers from that feeling
Mhm.
by the whole stand-up,
Well,
the iconic stand-up scene, which I'd
Can,
love to read.
can we all say that because of that movie, that was a part of why we all wanted to get into teaching?
Yep.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah,
Oh yeah.
yep.
I remember. I think we watched this in English class in high school, and up to that point, like if you'd ever asked me, I'm like, "Do you ever want to be a teacher when you grow up?" I'd be like, "No." Are you kidding? That's like the one thing I definitely wouldn't want to be. And then I watched this movie. I'm like, "Oh, well, never mind." May I amend my earlier comment? Yeah. So I know that was the first one on your list, so I'll let you take it from there.
Okay, all right. So I have Dead Poets Society, obviously, for everything we just spoke about, and like I said, that last scene. I always want to try and like, just if there's one scene I'd like to recreate in a classroom, just to see if we can pull that off somehow. Is just have that, like that scene with the angles. I mean, it's very beautifully shot, even where you're seeing through parts of like where you see Ethan Hawke and just classic scene, and just you're going get up. I remember just talking to the screen like get up, stand up, and then one kid's just there and he's like.
Yeah, that kid.
He's just like
They keep coming back to him, and you see
and even
the
the kid who did
struggle.
the cat poem, which was real simple, he stood up, and then it was like not everybody stands up, which was cool too, because it was like you saw that there were still people who were still there, and then but he didn't get everybody, but he reached so many, and it was just the ones that he reached. It was just a great film. So but I showed clips for that in my classroom all the time. We showed it on the news. I mean, there's just so many great scenes from there. Field of Dreams, obviously what he had said. I mean, just having that guy get the. I mean, there's the personal baseball. I mean, that's one literally.
James Earl Jones.
James Earl Jones, but even I'm talking about even like what's his name?
Baseball.
The doctor, the actor who plays it.
Burt Lancaster.
Burt Lancaster. Like his character gets to play with them for a little bit.
Yeah.
Kid, and he tells me you could have been good like that. Anybody who was a baseball player who wanted to be in the major leagues, I mean, that movie just hits home on so many areas. And like you said, there's the connection between father, son, family, all that stuff. And it's more than just about baseball too. And it's
absolutely.
And that's it's a great film. Going to the Field of Dreams, like I said, when you set foot on there the first time, I literally went to the outfield and I teared up. I will say it. I got to the outfield and it was just there was something about the place that had a presence, and it was just really bizarre for me. And so that was definitely one on there. The Natural, right? That idea too that you could the guy had a shot and then gets shot.
Yeah.
And then it could have been the best pitcher, and then all of a sudden he comes back as like one of the best hitters. But there's also the moral struggle.
Get back here, Hobbs.
Yeah.
Hobbs.
I came to play ball, and that whole thing. It's just I should have been a farmer. I use that line a lot in school, by the way. Yeah, I should have been a farmer. But Wilford Brimley. Anyway, so great movie there. Obviously, baseball is going to be an influence. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. I look at that as a guilty pill. I'm surprised nobody got that on there, did you guys?
No.
No, and I'm surprised because that's one that I could just put in.
I didn't because I don't feel guilty about loving that movie.
Or not guilty, but comfort. Sorry, it's a comfort movie. It's a
Yeah.
comfort movie. So that's why I'm a comfort movie. Meaning you could put it on anytime and just watch it wherever it's at. Like if it's on, I'm watching it. Like it's on TV. If I find it on cable, whatever. and there is that feel good, I think, in the end. Although I think we debated that.
The end was. We just said the end was weird when they were all
People
staring
were,
at
like,
each other.
weird 'cause,
But I think
yeah,
the
there was
message
something-
of him
okay.
bringing him home,
Yeah,
like that
okay.
piece was.
Alright.
I think we all agreed, if I recall.
And I think to like family times and us watching that as a family growing, and all that. Same thing with the next one, A Christmas Story. So Christmas Story being in there, like it's a staple. There's so many lines that we still quote from there.
Yeah.
And I love The Wizard of Oz.
Christmas Story, that movie just wraps
has
up so
a-
nicely with the couple watching the snow fall
Yes.
through the
Yeah.
window,
Yeah.
Christmas music on the radio. It's
It's
beautifully
a very
shot.
nostalgic film,
Yeah.
and it captures like my
You should go to
feeling
the
of a
house.
childhood being a kid. What?
You should go to the house.
Yeah.
Tour the house.
We need to. Sharon's.
Working
That's her
in
favorite
Canada.
movie.
You can stay there. You can rent.
Yeah, we
Oh,
looked
you
at.
know
it.
that
I
right
looked at
there,
it
yeah.
one time because that's Sharon's favorite.
We almost
movie.
did.
I didn't even know that.
We almost
Okay.
did.
Yeah.
This is.
And I've wanted to get her a
Christmas Story,
leg.
you'll shoot your eye out.
Oh, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. That's
And
what
I
thought,
keep
yeah.
wanting to get Sharon a leg lamp, but
It's
she says
a
she won't
lamp.
put it up in the living room.
You should see
Fragile.
what it looks
It's
like from out here.
Fragile. It's from France.
What did you say? That's what I thought.
It's staring at me. Oh. Another one I put in there.
Rah, rah, rah.
Yeah, I mean the quotable lines, scenes, like it's just, to me, it's just a great movie. And then you got Hoosiers. Hoosiers, I also like that from being, the coaching aspect of things, and I mean there's second chances in there. There's a lot of there's a lot of things beyond. Again, it's not just a basketball movie. It's just another inspirational film, I think. My Bodyguard I threw in there, which I went for a few obscure that you guys might not have known.
Awesome
My
movie.
Bodyguard.
Awesome movie.
Remember
long
watching
time.
that with kids? You never saw My Bodyguard, John?
No.
You'd
Chris
like that.
Makepeace
Oh,
and Dylan. Matt
Dillon.
Dillon is the
Okay.
bully, and I think again, like those are the type of films that when I look back, I was trying to think of like comfort films, but yeah, it brings me back to like my family watching that. I remember seeing it at the theater with my family. And I remember the fight scenes in there, and I just remember the kind of that whole concept of the picked on and who do you want to be in life, and
Just thought of another
bullies.
guilty pleasure movie. from the
Bullies,
80s.
like bullies in general, because it's really the theme there, and then it just it's and being careful not to become the bully. There's just a great movie. If you've not seen My Bodyguard out there,
Yeah,
I've never seen
recommend it. Glory, putting their Glory.
Mm-hmm.
And I started going into comfort movies, into things that just moved me more too, and things that I can watch anytime that, like, oh my God, that's on, I'll watch it. So it fit your description of that, but also ones that I think tended to, hopefully, I think shape you as, I almost should have been a category for that, things that movies that have shaped you as a person. I mean, I could throw Chariots of Fire in there. But then I did throw Project X on there as well, which is the one with the chimpanzees and
Yeah.
the love for nature and animals and that whole, I mean, just so that's another one. I squeezed a few extra ones in there. So
Yeah, good choices.
Jumping back to guilty pleasure movies of the 80s,
Yeah.
I'm going to throw Tank
okay,
in
yeah,
there.
Tank.
James Garner.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yes.
I love that movie.
I think I've seen it. It's been a long time.
I could watch that movie.
I mean, the
over
hard
and
part
over.
about this whole thing, and this is why, like when I said the daunting task of making it feel somewhat impossible, is I went to the list of and I'm on there again revisiting it, and I'm looking for ones that I started doing it, and I realized I do not have, unfortunately, the time right now to do this, because I was going, there is so many good movies. And the minute I the list, it's like the list can keep changing for me in many ways, and I'm like, yeah, it's a hard thing, because the 80s had some really awesome films in it, and I'm like, it brings back memories. It brings back you're in that teenage phase. Is just the way you impact and
Well, that's
way it
like
impacts you.
it was funny because I sent out the Google Doc with the different categories, and this guy over here filled it out within 5 seconds. It was like Top Gun, Die Hard, Batman. It was done really fast.
You
and I'm sitting
almost
there,
have to do it, and that's almost the
Well, I
right
know.
way in some ways, because my mistake was I didn't want to leave anything out. So I started going through the list, and then it just became this big can of worms that seemed too overwhelming.
Right.
So I couldn't fill anything out, because I just was like, I'll do this again. I'll come back to this when I have more time. I'll come back. By doing it that way and not seeing everything, there's films I'm sure you're missing, but it's kind of like the ignorance is bliss type of thing in this phase.
That's my
the ones
life.
the ones that popped
summed it all up.
the ones that popped out to him, out, and he put them down. Boom, and he's good. He's done with it.
Yeah.
And it's like you can do that, And those have a big impact because they're in his memory, and obviously he came up with those.
Yeah, I
The
stared at that
problem for
stupid
me is
document
because
for
I've
3
seen
weeks.
so many darn films, that I've
Sure,
seen.
put on extra rows. Thank you.
Yeah.
You start realizing how many films you've seen as you go through this list too, and going, oh my god, that one, oh my god, that one, that one, that one, that one, and that's what became more daunting. So
Yeah.
it's hard to narrow it down to a list, which is a good testament to the films of the '80s. But
Yeah. All right, so moving out of the 80s for a minute, we got comfort anytime movies of all time. So this is anything beyond the 80s, could be before, could be after.
So I threw the word anytime
Yeah.
on there, meaning like you can watch this movie anytime.
Yeah.
Anytime it's on or anytime you're just looking for something to watch.
Mm-hmm.
This is a list you can pull from and be happy with your choice.
Yeah.
All right, so comfort anytime movies of all time. Hot Tub Time Machine. I love this movie. My buddy Tony and I will quote this movie to each other all the time.
Nice.
If you've never seen this movie,
Yeah.
you need to correct that because it is great.
Cool. All right.
It is silly. It is stupid. It is great. It is so much fun.
Awesome.
Did they make a sequel or are they making
They
one?
did. I never
did.
saw it.
Okay.
I don't want to see it
Yeah.
because they didn't bring back John Cusack. So
No.
screw them.
That's-
Great White Buffalo. If I was going to kill myself, I'd be awesome at it. Shotgun to the. Oh, so good. Another movie I can watch anytime, Kick-Ass. And I'll often. What's that?
such a violent film.
Oh, it's so good though.
I
So
know,
much
it's
fun.
so violent.
It's horribly violent.
I
but
mean, the
it's-
girl, the little girl at the, I mean, just
Hit girl?
yeah.
Yeah, she just like
And she's
kicks
getting
ass.
hit, but she's getting like it's pretty violent. Whoa. Yeah.
Scott Pilgrim
Yeah.
versus the World. I don't. Have you guys all seen Scott
Yeah,
Pilgrim?
I've seen it.
I've never seen any of your movies so far. So
Oh
please
my
do-
God.
No, seriously, and I'm like put. I hope this Google Doc stays up because
Oh, yeah.
this is going to be like when I go to the library, I'm going to start grabbing these movies.
Well, I've
I'm-
already started writing down which
Okay,
ones I haven't
cool,
seen yet that I would
cool.
need to see.
Scott Pilgrim is Edgar Wright movie, and he's kind of stylized.
Okay.
So, did you see Baby Driver?
Yes.
Edgar Wright.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's
Um,
another film like that ish.
Ish. It's based on a series of comic books. It's got a total 80s video game theme to it. It's a lot of fun.
Okay.
I enjoy that movie. It's one that I'll often download and watch on an airplane if I got to take a
cool.
flight. Chef, John Favreau. Recent movie. I just watched it again today. And in watching it today, I realized how much I really loved that movie because it combines so many great things. The idea of family, the idea of passion and doing what you love, the idea of great music, a lot of Cuban jazz,
All right.
kind of featured throughout the film. Like
got me
it's
at Cuban
like
jazz,
it's great, and it's a great story. Again, it's just following your passion, doing what you love, getting back to doing what you love, why you decided to do what you do in the first place. The great Kevin Kline movie Dave, when he has to portray the president.
It's on TV.
I can watch that movie, and that's one of our go-tos in the Mazuka house.
Yeah.
Is
It's on yesterday.
when we're looking for something to watch.
Was that Aaron Sorkin as well?
No,
I know,
He was
you're
the
thinking of
president.
American President,
but the
which is on my other list.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry to interrupt,
Um,
but yes, that was very good.
But I mean, that movie's just a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I don't know what to say about that movie. It's a lot of fun. It's silly. The premise, of course, is ridiculous, but
And I
Who
don't want to
cares?
derail you because I know you're on a time crunch, but I think when we look at these movies, and obviously you got to be careful of which side of the political divide you come from, but I think it shows you this hope for a world that, hey, can government just work without, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I remember when he moves in there and he brings his buddy in to balance the budget, and he's like, oh my God, if I, and
Yeah.
and it's just,
if I ran my business like this, I wouldn't have a business.
Yeah, and it also appeals to hey, let's just all make this work. Like, and he gets people working together. And yeah. And then the one guy, Ving Rhames, is the Secret Service
Yeah.
agent, and it just, yeah, I agree. I love Movie Dave.
There's a great line in there. I'm sure I'm going to screw this up, and just some along lines of, it's like, I'm going to kill him. You can't kill him. he's a president. He's not a president. He's an ordinary person. I can kill an ordinary person. I can kill 100 ordinary people.
Yeah.
So great.
Yeah.
Office Space.
Yes.
I mean, that's another one. Like, what
Well
should I watch?
played.
And I'll go through my shelves and like, Office Space it is.
Yes.
And
Very well
so,
played.
and here's the thing: I've never worked in that type of environment, so I still don't really understand the nuances. But I enjoy that movie enough to where I can appreciate it, knowing that it's really nitpicking at somebody's life, and there's somebody that appreciates that movie on a much higher scale than I ever will.
Have any of you guys ever worked in an office like that? I did as a summer
mean,
intern for 4 or 5 years.
Not an office like that, but I've
Okay.
had some jobs where I recognize the people that are in that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
well, that's
and
the other
see-
thing too. It's
Right.
those characters you can look around your own
Oh, yeah.
place of employment
Yes.
and say you're that guy.
I worked
you're
at a
that guy.
bookstore in college, and my manager was almost exactly the same as that manager. You know, we
Yeah.
close at 8 o'clock. It'd be great if you could stick around for another couple hours because we have some displays we need to put up.
Has anyone had the
That'd be
PC
great.
load letter thing on the printer and not been able to figure it out?
Vote letter.
I mean, seriously, and I've been there. I've been like, what does that even mean? And I mean, so the quote, yeah, Office Space. Oh, yes, that, and the TPS reports were using the new cover sheet. I know, I'm sorry.
I just don't think I'm going to go anymore. How many of us have wanted
Oh my
Dennis?
God, I said that's
It's like his battle
That's
cry.
my mantra. Yeah, it's like where he's, well, how are you gonna pay bills? I never really like paying bills either. I don't think I'm gonna
do that
either.
anymore either. Is there any way you can just make me feel like I've been fishing all day?
It's like the take a penny,
How much are the
leave a
Zephyr
penny.
tickets right now?
It's like the take a penny, leave a penny, although we're doing it many, many more times. So you're stealing. No, let me go back to it. It's, I can't believe it. We're actually looking up how to launder money on the internet. Oh, yes.
So awesome.
Well played, my man.
And then finally, in this ever-changing list, Shaun of the Dead,
Mm-hmm.
which I just,
Yeah.
I don't. Zombie movies are great. British humor is great, and combining
Put
the
them
two
together.
is just awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome, and I laughed so hard so many times. Like, especially when he's like, "Hey, is she still out there?" And he's like, "I don't know." And he turns around, runs to the window, opens it, looks, and she's right at the window. Closes the curtain, runs back. Yeah, she's out there. There's something about British humor that I find to be, in a lot of cases, stronger than American humor. And maybe it's because a lot of the time it's based on a more clever sensibility as opposed to dick and fart jokes. They don't. A lot of times they don't dumb it down for the audience. They expect the audience to bring a certain sense of knowledge
Yeah.
to the movie or to the TV show or whatever. So, Shaun of the Dead, I think, is great. Queen's "Don't Stop Me Now," featured in that movie, is so awesome. It's a great power anthem.
Cool.
So yeah, I mean, those are my comfort anytime movies of all time. Again, that list can fluctuate and change at a moment's notice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Pat, what do you got for comfort anytime movies?
Okay.
Of all time.
Of all time, first one on the list. I'm gonna
All
put,
7 of them are Dunkirk.
Yeah, that's right. Dunkirk is listed straight.
Yeah.
Yeah, if anyone was around me after I saw that movie,
Mm-hmm.
I was taken by that movie.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean,
I still need to see it again.
yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And I watched it a second time, like not just
Mhm.
YouTubing videos, but I watched it a second time. I almost fired that sucker right back in and watched it a third time. The only thing that stopped me is I had to watch the movies for the podcast, like,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
you know that we were doing like an hour from then. But I was taken by that movie. I thought that the content matter was excellent, telling us the story of Dunkirk. I thought, you know, we always talk about fact versus fiction and all that. I think they did a wonderful job of presenting this historical event and giving you a very good platform to jump off and read the story behind the story and maybe some things that just by necessity were left out of the movie or whatnot. And there's always going to be controversy about those things, but I think he really did a wonderful treatment of it and getting the overall themes and feeling behind it. Yeah, I can't watch that movie without crying. And the first time I saw it, I was actually sobbing. I actually made a sobbing noise, and thankfully in the theater it was loud enough that no one heard me sob. But it's outstanding, and I was surprised. I just went in thinking, oh well, this is going to be pretty awesome. The story about Dunkirk. I didn't realize how much like airplanes factored into it and the air combat. And yeah, I'll tell you, if anything's obvious on these lists, I'm very fascinated with airplanes and all that. And when they've got 3 Spitfires flying on screen, and he didn't do any CGI. He did it like old school with cameras hanging off planes and all this kind of stuff. And when you see those Spitfires come in, that was and you're in surround sound and THX and ABC and 123 and all the fancy things they put in movies now, and you've got those Rolls-Royce engines just, oh my gosh, that was outstanding. So Dunkirk definitely at the top of the list. Next up, I'm going to fire my list up because I was cheating on your computer.
Rogue Nation.
But yeah, Mission Impossible, Rogue Nation. Love the Mission Impossible movies. Can't get enough of them. And Rogue Nation just did everything right. You have a wonderful team of actors in there that have brought these characters to life, and you just want to see more of them. Each one of them. Even Alec Baldwin coming in, just great. Tom Cruise somehow gets better with age. I mean, that guy is looking pretty fantastic and doing crazy things. Yeah, motorcycle chase. What more needs to be said? That's one of the greatest ever put on film. The stunts hanging on the side of the plane. Yeah, that one. Love Rogue Nation. And everything just done right. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
The original?
The original. Well, yeah, the Disney one from the 50s.
Right.
My dad saw that as a kid because my grandpa took my dad to go see it. My dad showed me that movie. I showed it to Dominic and Daniela. So you got 4 generations of Canagallos seeing that movie. Yes, it holds up. Yes, it's awesome. It's a wonderful adventure. It's got a wonderful song in there that you can sing along with. That submarine is so cool. And I'll tell you, when the lights come up and they make that kind of sound as the thing's warming up and charging through the water, oh my gosh, that scares the pants off you, figuratively. And so love 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And yeah, I can put that on anytime, watch it with the kids. If it's in the middle of it, jump in. I always want it to end differently. I want Nemo to survive, and I want the Nautilus to be in my heart. The Nautilus is still sailing the 7 seas and fighting against the country with no flag. Excellent movie. And when you see what went in behind that, and that it almost bankrupted Disney, and what they had to do, and just how they re-envisioned the book, going to the behind-the-scenes stuff is very cool too. Especially how they kind of had to do a different take on that movie, on that story, to get it into movie form. All right, I'm going to keep jumping through this. Skyfall. I love Bond movies, and Skyfall, yeah, that really took me back a peg when I saw that. And, Daniel Craig, I really like his re-envisioning of Bond. I mean, like, the thing opens with motorcycle chases on rooftops and train chases where they're driving front-end excavators on trains and all this kind of thing.
Which was the last one?
Spectre.
Yeah. And so this was cool. And really, this seemed to capture, and I know they were kind of going for it, but this seemed to capture kind of that old way of acting where there was a lot of him just looking really cool. Mm-hmm. Like how you'd almost watch old movies. You just want to see people on screen looking really awesome. Mm-hmm. And yeah, Daniel Craig did. And some of the elevator fight scenes, where it was like silhouetted. Yeah, that Skyfall is pretty awesome. And I'm just going to go through and say the whole movie, but each scene, just how they envisioned it, they brought the old in with the new. And when M is making her speech, I'll sit there and listen to that speech. She's reading the poem, and I don't know my poetry, but she's reading the poem as the guy's busting in, and it's about how we still need the secret. And suddenly, the how they build that scene, it just builds to that crescendo when he busts in, and then there's the gunfight in the cabinet room. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna watch that as soon as we're done. I'm gonna watch just M scene where she's making that speech and the tension behind it.
I'm watching it right now.
Yeah, forget it. Mute the thing. Great Escape. One of my favorite, it's possibly my favorite movie. I grew up with that movie. I watched it with my dad and my grandpa. It's got my favorite actor of all time, Steve McQueen. It's got the motorcycle chase. I love motorcycle. I mean, so that it fires on all cylinders for me. And honestly, when I watch it, all the actors in there, it feels like old friends. The score, the sound, the theme of it feels like an old friend. I can put that on and it's like I'm hanging out. It's like I'm hanging out with friends. It's like hey, we're all back together. The gang's all here. This is awesome, and that's been my favorite movie for so long. I just cannot watch enough of The Great Escape, and how they talk about, they blend the, again, it's a war movie, but it's an adventure set within a war. With that, finally, Big Lebowski, that comedy, it just works for me. Every scene, just the attention to detail, the characters. I mean, it is one of the wackiest movies, but it's not lowbrow humor. There might be some of that.
It really
in there.
brings the room together.
It really, yeah, it's like that kind of stuff. I mean, it's just like, they did that on your rug, dude. I mean, it's so high end. The deeper you go, it's like Shrek.
Mm-hmm.
The onions have layers, right? Ogres have. The more you go deeper into that movie, there's just more comedy. You never get to the bottom. It's like it's like the internet. When you surf the internet, you get to the end of the internet. It's like, okay, I've seen everything. I'm just going to shut it down.
Mm-hmm.
You can't. You can keep watching this movie and keep gaining more.
Most of my family have not seen this movie,
Yeah.
but my brother has.
Yeah.
And we were a little while back, and we were talking about, it was somebody's birthday, or we were celebrating somebody's birthday over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to figure out stuff to do, and he was like, "Well, do you guys want to just go bowling or something?" I'm like, I don't bowl on the Sabbath.
Yeah.
And the rest of the family's like,
It's Shomer Shabbos!
"What are you even talking about?" My brother's just like, I got you.
Right. Well, I think if you play this thing back when we started 10 hours ago, I think there was the quote in there. I'm like, Donnie, this is bowling.
Shut up, Donnie.
Yeah, no, Donnie, this isn't bowling. This isn't Nam. This is bowling. There are rules. And then 15 mph. I roll out. You didn't think I'm rolling out naked, dude? Then guns going off.
Basically anything John Goodman's in.
Oh my
I
gosh.
will watch any movie he's in.
But even the dude. I mean, you talk about like a guy that can bring someone to life, and then the ancillary characters are coming. The Bunny Lebowski. For $1 million, I'm just gonna go to an ATM. What makes a man? Is it the bread? Oh, jeez. Big Lebowski.
Okay.
Awesome.
I'll give you a moment over here with the Big Lebowski.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So my list for comfort or anytime movies of all time, Count of Monte Cristo, the 2002 Count of Monte Cristo. I can and I have watched this movie back to back to back. This is one of those movies that I could throw this in the DVD player and I could watch it, and then as soon as it's done, I will just hit it, play again, and let it play on through. And I don't really know what it is. I remember going to see this in the theater when it came out. I think the whole family, we all went together, went to go see it in the theater, and it's just at the time I watched it in the theater, and I was thinking, okay, that's going to be an action adventure movie, some sword fighting. That's cool, and I don't know. There's something about this movie that I enjoy every piece of this movie. The humor, the action, the just the characters, the acting, the writing. And it's not. Sometimes I feel like you get like these epic historical swashbuckling movies, and they can feel a little overlong. But this one, it just seems like it runs at a smooth pace. And I don't know. This one I could watch this one over and over and over again. Sometimes even more than Star Wars. Like I almost think I could put this. Your face lit up when I said that.
Yeah, I'm like, whoa, is that possible?
Sometimes, if you were to ask me, sometimes,
Surprised.
if you're like, which movie could you rewatch more? I might actually rewatch this movie more. If you said I had to sit down and just continually replay a movie for an entire 24-hour day, it might be this movie instead of Star Wars.
When did you originally see that? When it came out?
When did I see Count of Monte Cristo? When it came out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was there any
was in
memory
college,
connection to that?
I don't even. I know we went to go
Is that
see it in the theater.
sometimes? Okay.
Yeah, I know we went to go see it in the theater, but I don't remember any like strong
Because I
memories
think it's a
or
good
feelings
movie
that go
too.
along with that.
I'm
But
surprised that you would say that over Star Wars. That
Yeah.
didn't shock me.
I don't.
So I'm like
yeah,
wondering what the connection is that would make you trump that.
I don't know. I really, really like the movie. But,
Okay.
Tombstone, that's another one. Actually, my wife and I, we just watched it for the first time in like 3 years. We used to have this tradition where when we were in college and we didn't have very much money, on her birthday, because every once in a while she likes Western movies, on her birthday we would go get Tombstone pizzas and we would watch Tombstone.
Okay.
And so every year, middle of July, we would always do that. And we've missed it for like the last 3 years. Maybe even 4 years. It's been a while since we watched it. So we were out somewhere, and I think we were at like a used bookstore, and they had a copy of Tombstone, the director's cut. And I was like, we haven't watched that in a really long time. And she's like, well, why don't we just watch it tonight? We own it. Well, okay. So we went home and we watched Tombstone.
You own it.
And it's one of the very few movies that my wife will like quote back to me. Most times I'm the one doing all the movie quoting, but Tombstone, like she'll be, Sometimes I'll ask her a question and she'll be like, "Well, I'm your Huckleberry."
Oh man. And I'm glad you put
You're
it on
Daisy if you do.
yeah, and I'm glad you put it on the list because that movie is just okay. Time to watch Tombstone again.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. So yeah, we just watched that the other night. So love that one. That's probably one of my favorite. That would be up there with one of my favorite movies of all time, but definitely a favorite Western too.
what is he? He's got the shotgun. He fires it in the air to get the horse
the
to
horse
jump,
out of the
and
way,
then he
but-
aims it at the
Yep. I still love the part when it's Billy Bob Thornton. I love the scene where he's in there and he's playing cards at the table.
Yeah.
And he's complaining and he walks up and he's like, "Well, I just came over to tell you you're sitting in my seat there, friend."
Yeah.
He's like, "Is that so?" "Yeah, that's so." And he stands up and he's like, I'm real scared, mister. "You are real scared." And then he starts slapping him and he's like, pull that and see what happens. And
Yeah. Oh, Kurt Russell.
skin that smoke wagon. and
That's
see what-
right. That's right. Yeah.
And he just keeps hitting him, and then he stops and he just goes, "You gonna do something? Or you gonna stand there and bleed?"
Bleed. Oh.
And
yes.
then they go outside, and he's coming up behind him with a shotgun, and Doc Holliday, "Johnny Tyler, you madcap!" He's like, "Doc, I didn't know you were in town." And so then Doc Holliday and Wyatt Earp start talking to each other, and after like a minute or so, they turn and he's like, "Oh, Johnny, you were still there. I forgot you were there. You may go now."
Yeah. Oh, yes.
But
Yes.
I love that movie.
Do you remember George Williams? Whenever the teachers, we'd be up late, like hanging out doing what that movie would always be on.
Oh, really?
We would start watching it, then we'd go places, and then go back, and then we'd just rewind it back to the beginning, and we would. It was the group of teachers hanging out at the lounge. That movie would be going like 24/7.
Nice.
Yeah.
I put It's a Wonderful Life. I can watch that movie anytime at all. Like it's one of the, not that I have something against black and white movies, but usually I kind of have to be in the mood to watch an older black and white movie. If this movie's on, it doesn't have to be Christmas. It doesn't have to be any special time of year. I can put this movie on and just watch it at the drop of a hat. So It's a Wonderful Life definitely goes on the list there. The Rocketeer is probably one of my favorite movies of all time. It's up there with Star Wars and all the other favorites that, if you told me I could only bring one movie to a desert island, I'd kill you and I'd bring 5.
Okay.
So that one's up there. I love the whole, like the 1930s, 1940s. That I'm not as knowledgeable of the aviation and the other stuff
I was
as
just
you
going
are.
to say
but-
that very, very, very nice looking GBR1 in the yellow and black makes me kind of drool a little bit. Makes my heart kind of go a little.
The Sportster at the end, was that the?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was the point. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, so I love that movie, and that movie didn't really get a lot of love when it came out. We're going to talk about it, I think, in a couple of years, but I think it had the misfortune of coming out in between. Was it Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and Terminator 2 or something like that?
Yeah, it was some like.
And it was like those two movies, and then this one was like right smack dab in the middle of those two. So, but no, I love that movie. Empire Records, I put that one on, and that was kind of at first I was like, I don't know if that's a guilty pleasure movie or not. I don't know if am I too old to supposed to enjoy that movie?
What was this? Oh, you were trying to debate whether it was comfort or guilty.
Right.
Okay, all right.
So at first I was like, is that a guilty pleasure movie? Am I supposed to be embarrassed that I like that movie, or screw it, it's Rex Manning Day. So I put it in the comfort anytime movies. I can watch that movie at any point in time. Why? I don't know. I watched it a whole bunch of times in college. I really enjoyed it. Liv Tyler doesn't hurt any of that. That may be one of the biggest reasons I can watch that over and over and over again. She also doesn't hurt the Lord of the Rings movies and pretty much anything else she's ever been in. Zombieland, I put that one on there. So now I started to break my own rule because you jokers added in extra rows. So I realized that, okay, fine.
Jeff.
That was Jeff's fault. Jeff ruined the whole thing. So I added in a 6th and 7th movie here, even though you're not supposed to. So I added in Zombieland. I can watch that one anytime too.
Have you seen
Yeah.
it?
Not yet, but it's on the
Here's it.
list.
You gotta watch it.
Yeah, I know. I got to see it.
Yeah.
Dude, you have to see it.
No, I know. My brother, John, everybody has
Yeah.
told me. Yeah.
I will loan you my copy if you need it.
Sure, I'll take you.
Okay. And then finally, Fight Club. Fight Club is one of those movies. In fact, it's one of the first movies I ever remember doing this. We was in college, was in the dorms, and I had never seen Fight Club. And we went to, that was back when Blockbuster was still around. We went to Blockbuster and rented the VHS of Fight Club. And my roommate and I and a couple of the other guys in the hallway, we were sitting in this tiny dorm room. We watched Fight Club, and as soon as it was over, we just kind of all looked at each other and we're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Rewind.
Yeah.
As soon as it was done, play.
Yeah.
I think we watched Fight Club 3 times in a row. The first time, and I don't know what it was about it, but we were just kind of blown away by this movie. Like, this is the most amazing movie I've ever seen. Not that it makes us want to become terrorists or anything, but it kind of made us want to go start our own Fight Club.
Cool.
Or at least watch the movie 3 times. So,
cool.
Fight Club is definitely in there for me too. All right, Dennis. I'm confused by your first one. Toy Story, all of them, Dark Knight. Is that 2 separate movies? Okay, you're just throwing more.
By the way,
Okay.
I logged on. Tammy knew it was the 200th today. I logged on. I'm like, ugh. She goes, what's wrong? I said, well, the podcast. Nothing else was said. She goes, someone add more rows. I mean, she knows because I'm just like, because I was like, I've made my list. I've been talking to my family, and then it was just like, oh, what's wrong? The podcast. Someone add more rows.
Yep.
I'm just
They
yes.
cheated.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm sort of cheating here, and I'm just gonna kind of.
Well, you're doing it by not adding rows. You're just
I
putting-
didn't add rows.
You're
I
putting 2 and 1.
I tried to stay within the
multiple
rows,
movies
so
in
you
the-
couldn't say I added rows. I just threw 2 in each row.
Yeah. Thanks a lot there.
Okay, so Toy Story, all of those. I mean, just
I still
God,
have not seen 3.
that's isn't that the biggest tier? Wait,
Yeah.
yeah, oh yeah.
I still haven't seen that one.
But
I need to see it.
What a wonderful message these movies have.
And that's the thing. It's
Yeah.
the message is just, and the fact. I mean, God, any cartoon that can make you cry like that, just like I get emotional watching those movies. I mean, it's very powerful, and it's such a great story because knowing that was like the first movie from really Pixar that was like the big movie, and that almost wasn't. Like if there's a whole documentary on Pixar. They tell the story of how Disney kind of wanted adult and kind of smarky, just humor that was kind of biting, more Shrekish type of stuff, a little bit more adult, I think, as they referred it. And when they test audience, it just fell on its face, and they were like, "Why do we hate these characters? Why do we not like them?" And they're like, "Because you didn't let us make our movie." People at Pixar, so they literally labor of love. From what I remember on that was they went to work on this and just 24 hours a day, almost pretty much just round the clock. Team of people said who wants to do it, so they went and they redid it the way they wanted their movie, and bam, the rest is history. And the thing is, it has heart. It's got tremendous heart. It's got tremendous, and it's just great series.
And don't fall into the sequel traps. I mean, you might go back and say, "Oh, the original is maybe."
It's good. That's why I had to put all of them because it's like it just got bad. They were all just good.
And they're coming out with a 4th, and I mean, they're good. That's a solid. Yeah.
Dark Knight, anytime that thing's on, I don't care where it's at. There's just a scene somewhere that you're waiting for, or is there always a scene that you're on? Like it just, you just. Yesterday, it was funny because before, like Hunter the other day, he was just like, "Let's watch Dark Knight. Let's watch at least the first 15 minutes." Like for that, just the opening, that whole opening where he does it's the view, the way he's introduced to that story, and the music, just great. Seabiscuit, one that's probably not on a lot of people, and I have probably seen this movie more than a lot of movies. Maybe not in its entirety from beginning to end all the way through, although pretty close. It captures that time period. I've got the DVD. I used to show the extras and thought behind it, and maybe it's because I know the director's thoughts in the movie and stuff, and based on the book and how he brings it to life. But the whole story of 3 characters getting. I think the way they sum it up, have you all seen Seabiscuit or no?
Yeah.
Yes.
But to me, that's just a powerful movie of just redemption. And I mean, there's the great line of, you don't throw a whole away just because you don't throw a whole life away just because it's banged up a little bit, basically. And it's like it's so true. The horse, the guy who loses his son, the trainer who's kind of down and out, the jockey who's always trying to prove something. It's like all 4 of these people. It says at the end they kind of all saved each other, and it's so true. And it's just that to me, it's such a storytelling at its finest. I think it just does a great job, and I literally can watch any. I was just on, I think last week, and I watched the second half of it all the way through. I caught it like on TV, and I'm like, I couldn't stop watching. I watched the ending. It Could Happen to You. That's kind of a weird one maybe to be on there. That's the Nicolas Cage and
That's
Fonda,
the lottery one,
Fonda,
isn't it?
where they win the lottery.
Yeah.
And again, I think of that one because I could watch it anytime. And it's got Rosie Perez, and I started thinking I was putting these comfort anytime movies to the comfort ones to certain. Was there inspirational factors there? Was it formative in you growing up? And I always said if I won a lottery, that cop would be me. Like that's pretty much how I mean, taking kids to a baseball stadium, you know, paying everybody's fare on the subway. I don't need that much money, so I would be giving a ton of it away in fun ways. And he meets this other, you know, the girl who's like very much like him, and the waitress and the homeless, and just I just love that movie. The Sixth Sense. It almost was going to be on my guilty pleasures, that other one, not Sixth Sense, but the other one, because I'm like, does it fit? I don't know. I was trying to figure out where it fit. Sixth Sense, the movie that, probably the only movie that I immediately wanted to see in the theater out of, not necessarily, I mean, it was out of admiration, but it was out also like, I need to prove that there's something wrong.
I love this story.
Yeah. Like, it just, I saw it in the theater, and immediately I was like, I have to go back, and I have to see this film. This is going to eat away at me. I was actually on a date at the time, and I would have done it if it wasn't for the date. I would have gone right back to the next showing, but I was like, she's got to eat. So, anyway,
get some popcorn, get back in there.
The film, just brilliantly done. Had me, got me. It was very old Twilight Zone-ish, like the same feeling with Eye of the Beholder from the old classic Twilight Zones, where you're like, you just have that, like, what the heck just happened? Like, no, because this, and you go back, and everything is totally, like, so close to touching other people or interacting, but they never officially do. Yeah. And it's just genius script, and it's genius M. Night Shyamalan.
Did I ever tell you the story of...
Probably one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time.
Okay. Did I ever tell you the story of when I went to go see this in the theater?
Yeah.
When I went to go see it in the theater, I think Sharon and I went, we were dating in high school, and we went to go see this in the theater, and I knew it was going to be a scary movie. I didn't know anything else about it. I think it was like the first weekend it was opening. Knew it was meant to be a scary movie. So we went to the theater, we're sitting there, movie starts up, and we've gone through all the trailers, we've gone through all the ads and everything else, and the movie starts up, and then all of a sudden, just as kind of like the opening screens are coming on, all of a sudden the film on the screen goes and it starts to melt. And in the theater, I'm like, oh, this is a cool beginning to the movie. And then the manager comes out and he's like, it's going to be a few minutes. The film got caught in the camera and it burned a little bit. So just bear with us for a minute. I was like, oh man, I thought that was like a really cool start to a movie.
Yeah,
but
cool.
Yeah, then I was
I'll
like,
have to start a movie. I think.
So.
But that one, you know, I always refer to that one as like, because you say scary movie, and I mean, I guess it is, but it's really another movie that's got tremendous heart to it, and the idea of it being people who have died and things happening to them. Yeah, that's going to be a little bit thriller, alarming, scary, whatever. But I mean, it really is. It's an amazing movie about just the conversation with the boy and the mom in the car at the end. Oh, just like, you know, her mom is, you know, she's proud of you and all that. Like, just those things are just, it just a genius film. That I always say, I think the genre of like romantic comedies and horror are the two most kind of popularly made. There's so many not good movies that get made. You go, how's that movie get made? Well, it's because they sell. For whatever reason, people go buy those movies. And I always said, if I wanted to kind of go to that first screenplay and write that idea. I have so many good horror films, but I don't want them to be just slasher horror films and scary. I want it to be there, and that's the model for, like, I think J.J. Abrams said Ordinary People was like one of the scripts he used to read all over again. For me, it's The Sixth Sense, just that ability to have all of those factors in there and tell a great story and have it have meaning, but scary as your hook, because that keeps you enthralled, but it's really not scary. And you think about nothing in there is really violently scary. Right. It's all people just struggling and trying to, you know, it's just a great film.
That was one of the first movies I ever actually listened to director commentary on a DVD for.
And it explains all about Red, the color red.
Yep.
It's well thought out, just a great film. Cool Hand Luke. This one goes back a little bit to my family and some nostalgia in there as well. But I actually was a former student here. If he's out there listening, man, I'm drawing a blank on his name, so it's bad. He did the newscast for us. He bought me that. He bought me this for a DVD as I was leaving. Cool Hand Luke, because he used to talk about it. Dude, I'm friends with him on Facebook. But anyway, the Cool Hand Luke, just the fight scene. You've all seen it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. The fight scene with George Kennedy just keeps getting up. I mean, that's just, again, things I think that form, like, you sometimes see yourself in that role where it's just like things are just pounding you down. And then did he break? Did he really break, or did he not break? It's just great lines in there. Just calling it your job doesn't make it right, boss. You know, it's good film. So one of my favorites. Planet of the Apes. Now this one I go to the original, the original Charlton Heston first one.
Yeah.
But then I will say that, and I don't know if you followed the new ones.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I love, and so does Hunter,
Yeah.
my son. We love, like,
Yeah.
my son, after the last one, The War, right? That's the last
Yeah.
one, The
Yep.
War?
Yep.
With
Woody Harrelson. Yeah.
my son was disturbed for days.
Yeah.
What I mean by disturbed was he just was like, that was the best film ever. But now I'm in a funk, and I'm in a mood right now, and I can't get out of it. Like, and it was that to do that with the apes, and to do that with Andy Serkis, and then the way they do those, the behind the scenes of that, to pull that all together, and just those are so good.
And the
films. Like,
sci-fi
I'm-
and the apes are the hook, but there's a story there that just
and
drives
you
it.
feel for these
Yeah.
God, do you feel for
And
them,
we
like-
got our entire. I mean, we started watching those, and I started watching those with John when Nora was off to a birthday party, because I was like, well, we're not going to show Nora these movies. And then we started it in the morning when she was off somewhere, and then it got to lunchtime, and he's like, well, because I had gotten the box set for Christmas, and it got to lunchtime, and he's like, can we just watch the second one? I was like, yeah, but your sister's coming back pretty soon. And Sharon had gotten so enthralled in these movies that she's like, just put it on, it'll be fine. She can go play in her room or whatever. Well, then Nora comes in, and we're like, PG-13, there's some rough stuff here, should we turn it off? And like Nora's sitting there, and she's getting so into the movie, I'm like, should I really let a 7-year-old watch this? But she seemed to be fine with it, so I'm like, all right, I'm gonna let it go for now. And then so it goes all the way through the second movie, and then it's about supper time, and we're like, okay guys, we should probably switch stuff off. And Nora's like, no! I need to find out what happens to Caesar. Can we watch the third one?
Yeah.
And it's like, I just look at Sharon, I'm like, we've been watching movies all day. This is not normally what we do. We normally wouldn't let her see these, at this age. I'm like, what do you think? Sharon's just like, are you kidding? Put it on.
Yeah.
So we watched through the entire trilogy in one day, the whole
It's
thing.
one of the best
I'm trying to
remakes series
Yeah.
that I've ever seen.
Because when it first was announced that they were redoing it, I was like, really? Come
When
on.
they did
Because-
there was
'cause
the
they did that
original.
one.
There was the original one that was the with what's his name in it, Wahlberg.
Wahlberg,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, and that was good.
It was fine.
It was good.
Yeah.
It was fine. But then this whole reboot of how it all started has
Right.
just been tremendously
Oh, yeah.
fascinating and powerful. And
I am
and
so desperately
smart
trying to
and
convince my dad
intelligent.
to watch, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't know." I'm just like, "No, really,
No,
Dad,
it's-
please give the." I mean, give these a chance.
They're
such...
damn good.
If you need to borrow the box set, let me know.
Okay.
They might all be Blu-rays, so I don't know if you have a Blu-ray player.
Not yet.
Okay. All right.
But
Yeah.
but if it's go to the library, I mean,
Yeah,
it's just. Sorry, I didn't mean to
It-
jump
it
on
does,
your
I'm
phone,
just-
but
I'm
yeah,
just saying, but that's
just
why that's
wonderful.
Yeah.
And then squeeze a few more in there. We got Life is Beautiful. Total surprise movie that always comes up to mind is just, I remember Tony Kutroki, my high school teacher, we went to go see this movie, I think my brother maybe too, and we went somewhere in Downers Grove Theater. It had just come out. It wasn't like, it was still small, didn't Academy Award anything yet. And I'm like thinking, translated movie, I gotta write subtitles the whole thing, and not translate, but subtitles the whole movie. I'm like, this oh well, whatever. It's like it was cheaper, I think, to go in and see it or something, and just walked away going, wow. I never thought I could like just totally like a subtitled movie like this. This was an amazing story. Like, again, heart and funny and walked a perfect balance on a very tough subject, and to me that's amazing. And then Sandlot, anytime Sandlot's on, how can you not watch parts of Sandlot? So,
Wendy Peppercorn.
Wendy Peppercorn.
Kissed her long, and he kissed her good.
Did you hear
Babe Ruth, the king of... It's
the Great Bambino?
Yeah.
Did you hear they're making a prequel?
I heard, yeah.
And I told you this story, I think, on
Yes.
the last podcast.
Yes.
The Smalls and the Catcher. They're grown up now.
Yeah.
I guess they were walking around on the street. This was on Instagram, Twitter, one of those. They were walking around on the street of, I think, New York City, and they happened to pass by a guy that had a T-shirt on that was the "You're Killing Me, Smalls" T-shirt with the Catcher's picture on it. And they stopped him and they're like, "Hey, can we take a selfie with you?" And this kid was probably like 19, 20. He had no clue who they were. And he had no clue why they wanted to take a selfie, but he took a selfie with them. And so they posted it up on Instagram. They're like, this kid was wearing the T-shirt that said, "You're Killing Me, Smalls." Did not recognize us at all. We just thought this was a fun thing to do, but it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. No, I'm curious to see how they're going to do the prequel. It'll be interesting.
We need to make sure and I think John's a pretty big baseball fan, and then he kind of deferred, but I mean, the next time that we do a baseball movie like Field of Dreams, we got to make sure, and I mean, like, I should not be on that one, but like you and Jeff is like super huge baseball fans, and I know what it means to you. And we brought this up because then I've seen baseball.
When we were doing 8 Men Out,
when we did 8 Men Out,
Yeah.
the two of us were talking, and I think Bo's a pretty big baseball fan
Yeah.
too, right? So I mean, and I was like, I don't know that I'm the guy that should be discussing 8 Men Out, and so I'm just preempting.
We were like the 2 least qualified guys to talk about a baseball movie.
Yeah, and I think you're a pretty big baseball fan. I mean, I thought, but
bit.
there were just things that we got into, like, should they be in the Hall of Fame? Should they not be in the Hall of Fame? The 8 Men Out, because it was the and then it was just like, my thing I kept coming down to was like, why do we get so up in arms when our games are being messed with, but we don't care about anything else going on in the world, but bring those guys in and let's put, and there were so many different angles, and it's like I've seen baseball figure, and I know that I know Jeff's a huge baseball fan, and that I know you're a big baseball fan, and more so, like, I know you have a real philosophical take on sports and its place, and when guys mouth off and it gets labeled as just being passion, it's like, that's not passion. You know, I know that you. So when the next time we do a baseball movie, we got to make sure you and Mizzou, and I'm gonna keep my mouth shut because I really want to hear your thoughts on.
I'm actually trying to get word, and one of the next films, maybe by the end of the summer, will be The Natural with the kids.
Okay.
I started watching it, and then I'm like, stop, watch this with the kids.
Yeah.
I remember that was
Cool. So I just wanted to put that piece in.
Because that goes into some morality too, and about throwing games and about things and this and that later on in The Natural. So yeah.
Cool.
Hey, it's John real quick. We ended up having a supersized episode. We ended up recording late into the evening, and so we're actually going to cut this one. There's a lot of editing to do with this. We talked a really long time, had some really good discussion on it, but it is a supersized episode, so we're going to cut this one in half. So we're going to finish this off right here for episode number 200, and if you come back in episode 201, we're going to finish our discussion on our guilty pleasure movies, our comfort movies, our midnight movies, those late night ones that we like to watch, and our juvenile guilty pleasures, the ones that we enjoyed as a kid, but maybe they're not so great anymore, or they just haven't quite held up over time. So if you come on back next time for episode number 201, we will be back here with the end of our discussion on our guilty pleasure movies. And then after that, coming up really soon on episode number 202, we're going to have our Christopher Robin discussion with our special guest, Teresa Delgado from Disney Vault Talk podcast. And beyond that, we're going to get back into our 1988 movies. So in the meantime, be excellent to each other and go watch some good movies.